everyone, it's Samia Khan here with your FOX10 News Now update. Ron Hoon, are you so excited for this Thursday morning edition of News Now? This is a very special edition, mostly because we are kicking things off to talk politics right away, which I know is your favorite topic. Yesterday, last night was the GOP debate, round 2.
Okay.
All 10 candidates from the first round were there, plus an extra candidate, number 11. Fiorina, although she's not in 11th place. She's higher than 11th, right?
Yeah. Thank goodness CNN adjusted the rules to allow her on the stage, because I think the whole debate would have had a different complexion if she hadn't been there. I mean, she apparently, what I saw, and I don't know if things have changed in the last few hours, but when we went on the air at 4:30 this morning in terms of late night, overnight, she was, her two topics that she had hit very hard, which was Planned Parenthood and her response to Donald Trump's remarks about her face.
Right, which she was very calm with her response.
Yeah, but those were the hot trenders on Twitter.
Right.
No,
you know what was trending on my Twitter timeline? Pictures of dollar bills with the Addams family inside. Do you remember that moment? The minute he responded with the Addams family, I was like, all right, get the memes ready. It's happening.
I know.
I was like, do you realize you should have said, like...
Right out of the chute. The Addams family.
It was stuck in my head all last night because I was like, really? I was going to write an angry tweet blaming him for why I'm singing the theme song over and over again in my head. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, if you didn't tune into the debate, one of the questions asked to all of the candidates is which woman you would place on the $10 bill.
Right.
And so everyone went down the line.
And they started with Chris Christie. Yeah. And so he says, well, I don't think the Addams family gets enough. Just by saying the Addams family, I mean, it got really awkward on stage because people thought I think most people thought, is he making some kind of weird joke that he's about to say that Morticia Addams?
Yeah, that's honestly like...
is supposed to be the new woman on
there
the
are so
$10
many,
bill?
I'm going to have to pull up some of the...
Are there some now?
Oh, on Twitter.
Oh, I can't wait.
Like,
I can't wait.
It's last night.
Yeah. But I will say, in the defense of all these candidates... At 3 hours, here.
I'm telling you, it's everywhere. This is Trevor Noah from The Daily Show tweeting this right here. I mean.
That's good.
But in general,
now Morticia would be funnier. Do we have any with Morticia
on there? I'm sure. The whole family.
Oh, look, Cousin It.
But a lot of people, obviously... I agree with Chris Christie. The Addams family has long been neglected on American currency. It was the funniest thing.
It was.
And I know we're here to talk about serious issues, but I really wanted to bring that up right at the top because it was just
it
one
was
of
so
those
awkward.
moments where it was just like, really?
Until he finally said John Adams. I think every person in the room and most people watching thought that it was that. It was the Addams.
I will say that I first... like in my mind I was like, Addams family, the song starts playing in my head, but I also knew that there was an Addams family in U.S. history.
Yes.
So I did not make that mistake, although I really think he should have chosen his words more carefully.
Yeah, no kidding.
Phrase that differently.
Just start off by saying one of the great patriots was John Adams.
And his family.
And his wife Abigail. Yeah. That's all you have to say.
Maybe, you know what though? What if he did that on purpose? What if he knew he was at least going to be a soundbite? He was going to trend. Yeah. We're talking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are certain moments that people keep talking about. For example, Jeb Bush, when he was just like, you know what? When, who was it? Rand Paul was making the comment?
Yeah.
There's certain people on the stage who smoke marijuana.
Yes.
He was the one making that comment. Mm-hmm. And, he's like, I know for a fact at least one person on this stage. And Jeb Bush was like, yeah, it was me.
He's talking about me.
And then he opens up. He's like, yes, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact quote, but he basically was like, 40 years ago, I smoked pot. And I'm sure there's at least one other person on this stage who did, but isn't willing to admit it in front of 25 million people.
And then he said, my mom's not going to be very happy that I'm bringing this up.
Yeah, but it
was...
brought a realness to him, I'll be honest.
Oh, absolutely.
It was the most... I think it was the best Jeb moment,
it was,
to be honest.
When Bill Clinton talked about it 20 years ago.
Yeah, and people were way less liberal then than they are now about that.
It was such a shocker. Now it's not a shocker at all. You're just going to score some points. I did think that Jeb Bush scored quite a few points. I do think that he was a completely different candidate from
the first time around.
And
I will say that I thought his answer was really smart because I was sitting in this newsroom. I created my own viewing party by staying at work till 8:30.
Nice.
Because I stayed here because I wanted to watch it, and as some of you know, I cut the cord, so I'm one of those millennials that only rely on internet and streaming services. So I don't have CNN at home. I was like, well, I'm going to have to stay at work if I want to watch it and have something to talk to Ron about and actually have knowledge of it instead of watching highlights.
Plus, future employee of the month who stayed here till 8 o'clock last night. Those kinds of things get noticed on you.
Right, but I wasn't like helping the newscast. I guess I was doing research for today, so I was doing extra work.
Yes. As was I when I was even actually, believe it or not, I was contributing to my workday by taking a nap yesterday afternoon so that I could then stay up till, which it ran after 8.
We can be co-employees of the month.
Okay,
we can share the title. Yeah. But the point I was trying to make is that with that question, I was getting kind of annoyed that they were making a really big deal about the issue of marijuana in terms of the drug problem in America, and I'm so glad that, was it Jeb that pointed out with his response, what about the problem about like heroin? And I was saying that right before he said it. I turned to Brian, our evening web producer, and I was like, really, they're worried about weed? What about heroin, coke, all the other drugs that are actually destroying people?
Correct.
And I get the argument. Some people in there were like, oh, well, marijuana is a gateway drug, whatever. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't necessarily subscribe to that belief.
The weird thing about it was that except for that moment, what did Rand Paul have to offer the entire 3 hours? He was so marginalized, and that's one of the things we need to talk about. Now, this will be controversial, I think, for some people, and I don't even know if everybody's thought it through that this was obviously the CNN plan to do what they did. They focused way less on the marginal candidates. I felt like when Fox did it, for better or for worse, they tried to have everybody with equal amounts of time.
They did, and it turned out most people did, sort of.
Yes,
I feel like the numbers this time around were...
Rand Paul was nowhere on that stage. Scott Walker was a ghost. Scott Walker?
I don't really remember Kasich saying much.
No, and Mike Huckabee. In fact, I'm going to make a prediction right now that of those that are on that stage, the first to most likely go, because I do think that Kasich is probably running a pretty lean and mean campaign and can hang on for a while. I think that Scott Walker is pretty much done.
You think he should just drop out right now?
And I think that Mike Huckabee is pretty much done.
Well, you know what's interesting with Mike Huckabee? I think one of the first things he mentioned, the first opportunity he had to speak was Kim Davis, the Kentucky clerk.
Yes, right.
And I was like, that's what you're going to use your opening statement. I mean, I don't know. I just thought that.
Oh, by the way,
I mean, that's so last week. No,
when you watched
2 weeks ago.
When you watched the setting right in front of the airplane, did you say, the Hooner was right?
Well,
they do have Air Force One.
I already knew that you were right because I saw the preview on CNN where they were showing the space yesterday morning.
But you can see how spectacular it is.
It looked really cool.
Yeah.
And I heard Steve Krafft talk to you guys on the morning show this morning. I know he was saying that he had never been to the library, and he said it was just like an amazing, beautiful setup.
I was just telling Rick, who goes over there sometimes on vacation, I said, please set an entire day aside, because the mistake that I made when I went there was I gave myself like 2 hours. Give yourself a whole day.
I'm just setting up our FaceTime with Steve Krafft.
Give yourself a whole day and go see that. And then the capper is when you walk into basically the most beautiful airplane hangar that you've ever seen. Is basically what the room is where they did the debate. Look at this guy right on time, would you? We said he was going to come in at 10:10, and
he
boom,
is. Hold on 1 second.
Exactly.
Wait 1 second.
Hey guys.
It looks like the mirroring went away.
Okay, hold on. We're just going to try to mirror you.
Okay, we got you mirrored. Let me just pull you up on the screen so everyone can see you. All right. Now we can hear you if you speak.
Hi, can you guys hear me? I'm talking to you from Simi Valley, California.
Yeah, it sounds good. The audio quality is excellent.
Where's the gas station? Yeah, we have a fantastic microphone that our chief photog, John Netzel, has supplied us with, and it's like a broadcast quality mic that you clip into a phone, and it's much better.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you guys are already on the road this morning, huh? Getting ready to head back to town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We had a real late night, and you know how it is on the road. Right now, just getting gas. What can I say?
Well,
we're at a mobile station.
We were just starting to talk about some of our early impressions. Why don't you give us a couple of headlines just to start our conversation, Steve, in terms of what you thought were some of the major storylines to come out of it?
Well, I mean, I think that everybody was taking on Donald Trump. They were trying to cut into his lead. And I'm going to be really interested to see how much of it sticks and how much of his stubborn support remains. Lots of people, you know, are backers of Donald Trump no matter what. They're fiercely loyal to him. And there's a big disconnect between the punditocracy, of which I'm an extremely minor part, and the feeling generally among an awful lot of Republicans. And I think they feel, and I kind of sensed this last night as I looked at the crowd of people who went to this debate, there's a big gap between the average person who's leans Republican and the elite who feel that they run the party. I looked at that crowd. First of all, the Reagan Library is inaccessible. You just can't walk there. It's up on top of a mountain practically, with limited parking, and it's in a remote location in Simi Valley, which isn't close to a lot of other things in LA, and it's not even around most of the people in Simi Valley. It's literally up on a hill overlooking Simi Valley.
It's so far.
It's far, and the people who were there were well-heeled, rich, appearing. They look pretty rich to me. Nearly all white, and a lot of them old.
A lot of what?
A lot of them seemed like they were kind of old.
Oh, okay.
And if that's the elite in the party, those are the people who are in that audience. I did not see a cross section of America at all.
But do you also
I didn't see a cross section of the party at all.
Do you think?
And what I'm saying is, I think some of those people, just because the party elite thinks that Trump's era should be over and he should just go quietly away. You know, a lot of the people out there are angry. They're frustrated. They haven't gotten a raise in 8 years. They can't put their kids through college. They just feel the country's in decline. Everything's a mess in the Middle East. And it seems like there's such an incestuous relationship between big media and big politics. And this was a big production. It was a big money machine for CNN. And everyone's glad-handing everybody else. I can kind of see where Trump's appeal comes from. A lot of people are just tired of this.
And maybe Chris Christie scored some points then, Steve, where he interrupted Trump and Fiorina arguing about their records as business people to say, nobody cares. Why don't you talk to the 55-year-old construction worker who can't put his kids through college?
I think that was a great moment in the debate. And I think it's very true. And it was a good moment for Christie, who I think had one of the better performances of anybody on that stage last night.
Yeah, what do you think were the top 3 moments of last night's debate, Steve?
Well, the most quotable moment, and it was like, you know, playing t-ball, just putting a ball on a tee and letting Carly Fiorina knock it out of the park, and I'm sure she practiced, was the bit about dissing Donald Trump for making fun of her appearance. So that got some of the biggest applause. And it was a made-for-TV moment, and then his telling her that she's really beautiful, and then her scowling back at him. That's the number 1 moment, probably. Number 2 moment that got the most applause was the whole bit about the allegedly doctored Planned Parenthood tapes and the attempt to defund Planned Parenthood, and Fiorina got in a really great line on that issue as well.
I did not realize she was so passionate on that.
What I think I may have missed that part of the debate.
So she said, I dare Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton to actually watch this video. So I gathered that she had. A lot of people know there are anti-Planned Parenthood videos that are out there that were produced by a conservative group. And but she was, it almost... that was probably the most passionate moment of any candidate on the stage last night. I had no idea she was so passionate about that particular issue.
Yeah, of course, you got to remember the tapes are selectively edited. And the other thing is, sometimes you watch these debates and you think, well, this is a debate among the candidates, and one of these people will be the next president. Well, actually, it's just like, you know, the American League or the National League. It's just one half of the deal.
Right.
It's just who's going to be the Republican nominee. That's all we're talking about here. And a lot of America, in fact, statistically, most of America likes Planned Parenthood. I mean, that's the truth. A lot of women quietly rely on Planned Parenthood. Abortions are a very small part of what Planned Parenthood actually does. And I think that the Republicans are playing with fire if they try to shut down the government on a bid to defund Planned Parenthood, because a lot of people quietly are going to protest the attempt to gut this decades-old organization by voting against the Republicans. So it's good in the primaries. It's good competing against other Republicans, but it could be dangerous in the general election.
How'd you think Ben Carson did?
I thought he did a real nice job. He's a real, I can't say I know him, but I've interviewed him a couple times. We were the first crew, as luck would have it, to talk to him after he walked off the stage. Just happened that way. He's a genuinely nice guy, I think. Kind of mellow. He's self-effacing. He's obviously a very brilliant person. He's got some ideas that are out of the mainstream of America. That's fair to say, but they're in the mainstream of the conservative wing of the party. So he's got, a lot of people have an affection for him. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't change. He's the same guy off stage as he is on stage, and I think people really like that.
What did you think of it dawned on me partway through the debate that CNN had made the decision to really focus a lot of the airtime on the leading candidates, meaning Trump, Carson, Bush, Fiorina, and then as you went further toward the edges of the stage, Rand Paul, except for talking about pot, I mean, where was he the rest of the night? Chris Christie kept interjecting himself and not allowing himself to be marginalized, but like a Scott Walker. I mean, what was he even doing up there?
Well, there's 11 candidates on stage, so it's really tough to break through. And if they're asking a question to, say, John Kasich,
yep,
and on the other end of the stage is Fiorina or Ted Cruz, it's kind of hard to get your point of view in because you're far away. There's 8 or 9 or 10 people between you and the person that's being asked the question. Logistically, it's tough. And that's why Carson said last night in the interview afterwards, he would prefer if the debates just had, say, 6 leading candidates. Mm-hmm. But this is not really a debate. It was a reality show. It was kind of like a sports event. Ron, you've been around business a long time. You probably remember the days when debates were earnest affairs where people stood at lecterns and they were asked a bunch of very sober policy questions by very serious-minded people, and often the debates were dry as toast.
Yes.
CNN is goosing this. They're promoting it. They have whole promotional strategies going into this. They had an incredible stage set. They tried to gin up.
It was like an award show. It was almost like watching an award show or a pageant or something that's really hyped up like this event. But I also think that reflects a changing time in society. Like, for example, someone like Kim Kardashian also wouldn't be famous 20 years ago.
Right.
And that's where America has gone towards, this like sensationalism, the reality shows, whatever. So I guess they're trying to cater to an audience. Hold on. Did you hear him?
No, we just lost
again.
Steve. I mean, can you?
I was saying,
there you go.
Perfect.
Okay, go ahead.
I was saying the leading candidate in this race is himself a reality TV show star.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, I mean, we may be entering an era where it becomes more of a celebrity, more celebrity-oriented, based on how Donald Trump does. But then, on the other hand, Ronald Reagan was an actor.
Yeah.
But he was a governor. I understand, but a lot of people said, "Oh, they'll never put in an." I mean,
but there's
that
a
was
difference
the diss
between
on
an
him.
actor and a celebrity, and I want to make that clear. There are people who may star on a TV show, that might be their craft, that might be how they make their money, but they're not in the spotlight. They're not making the covers of magazines and the headlines and all the tabloids, and do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
And there are other people that are just good at being celebrities. They're great sound bites that wherever they go, people talk, and they're famous. They're almost famous for being famous at this point.
Yeah.
So this was almost promoted like WWE at times.
Yeah.
I expected Carly Fiorina to pick up a folding chair and break it over Trump's head.
I mean,
and then maybe little tag team in action.
Her response,
Battle Royal,
because I think she's been testing out responses. Yeah, I think she's been.
You're saying Chris Christie would have been awesome in the race.
Oh yeah, right. Hey, we're all talking about Chris Christie, how he thinks the Addams family is underrepresented on American currency.
Yeah, well, I think when he said the Addams family, people were thinking of Gomez and
I know.
No, every single person.
Oh yeah, you should see what's trending on Twitter. It's all over the place.
Adams.
Yeah.
It was all over Twitter. The minute he said that, I turned to Brian, the web producer. I was like, people are now going to Photoshop right now, find a $10 bill, and put someone on from the Addams family on it.
Yeah,
Watch.
Exactly.
And sure enough, all over Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think John Adams or John Quincy Adams.
Yeah.
So, I thought maybe he was talking about Amy Adams. I don't.
Perhaps.
All right. So did Jeb Bush? Did he strike enough blows last night? He obviously was much better than he was in the first debate. Can he re-enter? I mean, the take on Bush ever since the last debate is look at his numbers drop. Look at his numbers drop. Has he turned that around? Do you think, or was it that epic?
I think he did everything he could do yesterday. But it may be a question more of the times we're in rather than any particular deficiency with his campaign or his campaign style. He is absolutely part of that power structure. He is absolutely on the inside, at the very top, in the corridors of power of the Republican Party. And that's exactly what a lot of people are pissed off at. And he's fighting that, and he's also fighting his name. He's stuck with being the brother of George W. Bush. George W. Bush has some fans to this day in the Republican Party, but there are a lot of Republicans who feel that anyone with the name Bush in a general election is carrying a lot of baggage, and I think that scares them. It makes them look at other candidates.
The thing I noticed yesterday, and I thought this was unfair personally, is the fact that when they did ask Jeb specifically about policies during his brother's era, instead of saying former President Bush or anything, they kept emphasizing your brother, as if to make that personal connection, as if to remind the public that, hey, he's related to this guy that some of you may not like. And I felt like that was unfair.
It's unfair, but life is not fair, as President Kennedy once said. I mean, and fair in a sense, but it's also been a terrific advantage for Jeb Bush. I mean,
Steve, hold on.
Every once in a while, when we hit a pothole, the mic cuts out. Have you noticed that?
I think
he'll bounce
probably
around
his
a little
internet
bit.
connection on the road, I'm assuming. So can you go ahead and say whatever you just said to us, because we didn't hear it.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's not fair that his name is sort of a millstone around his neck, but it's also true that it's been a terrific advantage for him. And would he have been governor of Florida had he not been a Bush? Would have been. It's hard to say, but it's certainly gotten him access to a lot of money and a lot of institutional support. So it's a two-edged sword.
Right, that's a good point. I really want to read this comment. We haven't acknowledged the chat room and all, and I think it's really good what Les Chowmain is saying. He feels like the debate rewards the people who are bad-mouthing others because the airtime is based on how many bad comments made, and the people who didn't say bad things about others got no airtime.
Well, I will say this,
I think
Stephen.
it's true.
Yeah. I think it is true. I think the whole debate was set up when Jake Tapper kept asking these questions almost to try to get two people to fight about an issue. Rather than just saying, okay, so what about that senator, or what about that governor? So, Governor, I would like for you to turn and address this person and tell them why they're wrong about this. There was so much of that. I thought a candidate would some point stop and say, I'm just going to talk about me, Jake. You can phrase your questions however you want. I'm going to tell people what I think about this rather than what he did.
Wait, the first question at the very top of the debate was Carly Fiorina.
What about him?
What about Trump? Like, it was just like, okay, they just went right to it.
Yeah.
Well, this wasn't really a debate. It kind of was, but it was ultimately a show.
Yeah. All right, now let me ask you about a couple of questions here about Bush. Because I heard this analysis early this morning. I'm flipping around all the different channels. And I wish I could remember the lady's name who was one of the many analysts. And she said, it struck me as odd that he was more forceful in defending his brother than his wife. She said, you know, I'm watching it, and the issue of his wife comes up, and he says, I think the quote was something like, So I would hope that you would apologize. She's sitting right here in the front row. I would hope that you would apologize to her, rather than saying, this debate is not going any further until you apologize to the most important woman in my life. What you said was so far out of bounds, to be much stronger on defending his wife versus the way he put it. And yet there was this moment when his brother was criticized that he got his best applause of the night, which was when he said, hold on a minute, Mr. Trump, he kept us safe. And that was a much stronger defense.
Yeah, it was, although I think it's kind of I keep thinking about general election. I don't think there are a lot of people in the general populace rather who necessarily feel that George W. Bush kept us safer than whoever might have been the alternative. That's a hard argument to win in a big election. And so that I thought wasn't a particularly strong tack for him to take at that moment. But I do think that when he was talking about his wife, that made people uncomfortable because, it made people squirm a little bit, demanding an apology on national television in that stilted format. And I think among Republicans, and I think you can find this among Trump Republicans, they legitimately feel it's a very good line of inquiry. Had Jeb Bush married a woman from, say, Nebraska instead of from Mexico, would he have the same take on the immigration issue? A lot of people would tell you, no.
Well, here's my Hooner history lesson for today. The English Civil War was fought in large measure over who King Charles married. because he married a French woman who was Catholic in the 1600s, and the British public did not like that. So, here you've got, a situation where there may be some in the Republican Party who don't like the fact that they feel like Jeb Bush is being influenced by his wife. However, Steve, we're in a situation today where ultimately Marco Rubio's approach to immigration is going to have to be the approach that the party adopts, whether it's in this election cycle or not, if they hope to win the general election. Yes or no?
Do you mean, specifically, are you talking about a guest worker program?
Yeah. Well, the fact that he says Donald Trump is completely out of bounds. There's no way. Basically, what Ted Cruz wanted to call amnesty, but what Rubio says is, criminals have to go, but the other 11 million, let's be realistic about it. They're going to stay. Let's embrace them. Let's embrace the culture.
It just isn't where the party is. It just isn't. I mean, that's just an article of faith for a lot of bedrock Republicans, that it just sticks in their craw that people who didn't come here officially are here. And they have a problem with that. And we've certainly seen it play out in Arizona, and now it's playing out on a national scale. And I think anybody, you're swimming upstream if you're going to try to convince the massive Republicans that we need a path to citizenship. I just don't think they're there as a party. It's easy for the Democrats, that's where they are, and have been for years. But it's tough at this early point in this contest to make that statement. You're kind of on an island if you do that. Plus, with Rubio, it rings hollow to a lot of Republicans because Rubio had a free pass. If you're Cuban, you don't have to go through all the stuff that other people do. I mean, you're here. And just getting to America, you're cool. Then they change, and of course, his family came before the revolution even. But it doesn't ring authentic, I think, to a lot of people because he didn't have to live that life.
Speaking of Rubio, I thought his strongest moment, Samia, I'd love to get your take here, was, and it was pretty effective against Donald Trump, saying, you know what, you can go ahead and say, I'll gear up, I'll hire the right people. Sorry, I don't know the names of, the people that run ISIS, or I don't know the names of various Ayatollahs or whatever. He said, you got to be ready to lead on day one. And if you take 6 months to learn on the job, who knows when you're going to potentially be facing a serious foreign policy issue right out of the chute.
Right.
I thought he was pretty strong.
What if you're targeted one weekend? That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a great point. And how hard would it be to learn a couple of these names? I'm surprised that Trump hasn't just sat down for half an hour and looked at a few pieces of paper and learned the names of the various leaders of the Middle East. He should do that. But one thing that you reminded me about on the immigration issue, I couldn't believe last night that we were at this shrine to this popular President Ronald Reagan, who granted amnesty to 3 million people, 3 million people while he was president in 1986.
Yeah.
Why didn't they ask a question about how these other candidates felt about immigration and a path to citizenship if the hero, Ronald Reagan, I mean, he himself granted amnesty to millions of people.
Yeah.
So what has changed? What has changed, and what does it say about where the Republican Party is today?
Steve, by the way, I think that should be the topic of your next vlog post. I think that's a really interesting point.
Cool, okay, you got it.
Gosh, how often do you blog, Steve? I gotta go check out your blog.
Oh, wow. A couple times a week whenever I'm
Do
not
you
covering
really?
Yeah, you should watch the videos. Are great.
Okay, I gotta start. I have a blog.
It's real easy to do.
I have a blog. It's called Hoon Blog, but I haven't Hoon blogged in months.
Okay,
So
all of his is posted on fox10phoenix.com.
Oh, that's awesome. Way to go, Steve. Oh, we went over a bump. We lost you again.
Okay, hopefully you got me.
Are you
have you
guys?
back.
Are you all the way out by San Bernardino now, or are you more Pasadena?
Yeah, where are we?
We're in the San Fernando
We're in the San Fernando Valley.
The Valley.
Oh.
Oh, what freeway?
What freeway?
We're on the 118, about to get to the 5.
We're on the
Okay,
118,
yeah.
about to get to the 5.
Yeah, so they're like near what, Sun Valley or something?
You work for Uber. You could be an Uber driver.
Me?
Your way around here.
Oh, I mean, when you
know your
live
way
there
around
for
now. Hey.
so long, you can.
Wow.
Steve,
I don't have
based
a clue.
on last night's performance, of the 11 that were on the stage, who will be the most likely to be the first one to drop out?
Wow, that's such a great question.
That's a good question.
I think
Good
Scott
job.
Walker.
Yeah,
I
He
think
was just-
Scott Walker's
yeah.
tried so hard to make himself relevant, but none of these guys have to drop out now.
Right.
None of these men and women have to drop out now because they've all got plenty of cash. And, they can make it work. But Walker is just in free fall, and if he does poorly in Iowa, just a couple months, he's out.
Yeah.
I think he's out.
Yeah. Well, that's what I had said. I said probably him
Yeah.
and maybe Huckabee, who seemed to get very little time on that stage last night. Did you
He
notice that?
did, but he's got his people. He can come back to Fox and start to show up again and pick up his bass guitar and play in the band again. And, he's always going to be good.
Yeah.
He's also. I will tell you this. I've met him a couple times. He's also a real nice guy, real genuine guy.
Yeah.
Very likable and
Yeah.
folksy, and that's who he really is too.
That's good.
I liked his answer for what's your Secret Service name going to be. When that question was
What was
asked,
his answer?
Duck Hunter.
Duck Hunter, right?
Yeah.
Why? Did he say
Probably because he loves duck hunting, Plus, it'll
I
score
thought
a
of
few
the
points.
Nintendo video game.
It would score a few points with the NRA crowd, sort of as well, I
Yeah.
suppose. So
And I guess the younger
That's true.
generation,
That's-
if they all thought Nintendo too.
yeah.
True. Yeah.
Steve,
Oh.
hold on.
And he's
There we go.
Yeah, we got
your
you
audio.
back now.
Okay. For his crowd, being a duck hunter is probably pretty good. If he'd said bow hunter, I would have respected that more.
It was actually, I think this was the first time I saw Donald Trump do self-deprecating humor, was when they came to that. The fact that Donald Trump said, I'm going to have my name go ahead and be humble,
That was amazing.
was actually, was a funny moment.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think Trump. One of the things he was trying last night was to be a little bit less obnoxious.
Uh-huh.
Wait.
We're losing you. Come back. Come back.
Okay.
Okay, now you're
how's
back
that
again.
sound? Okay. We're going past different cell towers and
Yeah,
stuff.
sure.
But I think he was trying to be a little bit more low key as this event wore on, or he was just kind of beaten down so much he just didn't feel like talking, or he didn't have that much to say, and it was a 3-hour debate, so it was crazy long.
Yeah, we did
It was
finally
very
answer the
long.
question that how long is too long for a debate? 3 hours is ridiculous. I really think even the audience was fading at about 2.5 hours in.
But CNN thinks, it's a money machine. They wanted to throw in that extra. So as long as they could milk it, they were going to milk it.
Do we know what the numbers were?
Fox did it was.
I have not seen the numbers yet, but Steve, that actually raises an interesting question. They did a break, I think it was every half hour. I know for sure on the tops of the hours. Were the candidates able to that wasn't enough time to go to the bathroom, was it? I was actually thinking, okay, what about like potty breaks?
Just don't drink any water. But then you have to drink water because you're talking so much.
I know.
That's not a good combination.
Yeah, and 3 hours on your feet.
Really, really tough. I mean, they signed up for this, right?
Yeah.
But, that has to get up on that stage in front of a national audience and keep it intense for 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's rough. I think, Hooner, you could do it. You could do it.
Sure. There are days I've done 5.5 on TV, and I'll come here with Samia, and I'll do 3 more. Those days have happened. So, but
perhaps you should run for president.
That's what the chat room always says. Okay, let's say hypothetically, either of you guys did run for president. I'm just going to give you the fun questions that they got yesterday.
Okay.
Who do you want on the $10 bill? Which woman? And what would your Secret Service name be?
Ooh. Well, of course, the first thing I thought was just Hooner.
But that's so obvious. It's not
so
even
obvious.
That can't even be a Secret Service name.
Okay,
it's not a secret.
it would be something. What's the other thing I love besides politics is football.
Okay.
So it would be some sort of football.
Come up with it now. You have the same amount of time they do.
Okay, so it would be something like Dog Man, because I love my husky dogs. The UW. Steve, you have no time. What's your answer?
I'd probably do something self-deprecating. I'd call myself Big Mouth.
Big Mouth.
Yeah, and on
Talking Head. I think I'd go with Talking Head.
Talking Head.
Yeah.
Talking Head.
That's funny.
That's perfect. Talking Head.
Yeah.
And, okay, so then the $10 bill.
The $10 bill. I'd go with Susan B. Anthony. No question, she deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
Or the obvious one, Eleanor Roosevelt. She was a great first lady.
You know who I thought of? Maybe I'm being too local here, but honestly, I mean, she was a trailblazer in so many ways. Sandra Day O'Connor, I think is worthy. I think she's to that level. Because she was not just the first woman ever on the Supreme Court, therefore blazing that trail. By the way, the trail that was blazed for her by Ronald Reagan, once again.
That's right.
But that she represents, I think, where a lot of the country is, which is she would go a little to the left on some issues and a little to the right on some issues. And, and has continued to engage students and the public through a lot of different efforts that she's been doing ever since. I'm a big Sandra Day O'Connor fan. And that was the first name that popped into my head. So,
we did a long interview with her about a year ago, and she is a really cool person. She really is. I liked her a lot.
Well, the day that I met Mikhail Gorbachev.
I guess you could be president.
Yeah. The day
all these foreign leaders.
I mean, whoa.
The day Samia, let's see a pin drop on that
I was
one.
like, I'm not even old enough to be president. So I don't have to answer
The day that
questions.
I met Mikhail Gorbachev, he was in town, he gave a speech. It was a few years back. And he was here on a Saturday, and I called the newsroom that morning and said, I'll volunteer to come in on my day off because I want to have a chance to actually, do some Q&A. I had like almost a dozen questions I wanted to ask him, and the format was more news conference. And I got one question in with him, but the point was Sandra Day O'Connor walked into the room with him. Somehow, diplomatically, I think, was playing a role in helping to ease him into Arizona for the short time that he was here. But anyway, so Samia, there's the answer to both of those questions.
What do you guys think
now,
about...
did he...
go ahead.
Does he speak English at all?
No, and I really wish that I had brushed up on my Russian because he walked up... Well, now, I'm not kidding about this, Steve.
Russian?
Well, I wish I had brushed up on a few phrases like das vidanya, just a few of those Russian phrases. I'm not kidding about this, Steve. He walked into the room and walked right over to me and shook my hand. I was the first person he greeted in that room.
Wow.
And I said, nice to meet you. And he just looked at me. And I thought, oh my gosh, he knows no English. Because he did have his interpreter with him. And when he got up to the stage, they did call on me first. And the question I asked was that he had given a speech to the UN talking about how it was important to build off of some of the accomplishments that he and Ronald Reagan, working together as two political enemies, had managed to so dramatically ease the tension between the two superpowers. We're not to that point right now.
Right.
And I said, your quote to the UN was that people needed to build upon that to try to make the world a safer place. I said, do you think we're there? Has that really happened? And his response was, and this is through his interpreter, he said, this will crack you up, Steve, because you know me too well. He says, that is a very long question. And then he said, but
That's
I
great.
say it is a very good question.
I think he understands Hooner pretty well. Hey, I got to tell you a funny thing about Russians. There was a Russian TV network
Yes.
covering this debate last night.
Okay.
And as they were answering questions about how everyone was going to be hostile to Putin, if they talked to or not,
Yeah.
Carly Fiorina wants to add 10,000 new troops and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
This guy was he was going like this and he was going like that. And he was kind of like mad dogging. He was mad, man.
He was shooting her the
He had
evil eye.
He had a mic flag.
That's funny.
You could tell it was Russian. Some of the letters were like backward to us, like a backward R and all that kind of stuff. So it's obviously the Cyrillic alphabet.
Speaking of which,
but nobody was there's no love for the Russians in there.
yeah. Speaking of which, did I hear Trump properly? Because I mean, I did have to go to the kitchen a few times. Did I hear him say at one point that he was okay with Syria? Or, I mean, with the Russians coming into Syria, and that if they want to fight ISIS, let them fight each other, and
Yeah.
and
He said
we'll kind
stuff
of pick
like
up
that.
the pieces. I
He's
sort of
kinda
thought
like
that's
with-
what he
with
said.
Rand-
Yeah.
Because he's not in favor of just like it's such a simple thing for all these candidates to say because they don't have to go over there and get killed and fight.
Right.
Everybody else wants to be armed to the teeth and send boots on the ground to Damascus.
Yeah.
I don't think most. My sense of things is that you'd find it hard to get a lot of Americans psyched up about that. So what Trump was saying basically is, look, I can cut a deal with anybody. I can face off anybody. Put them across the table for me. I'll handle them. And if they work things out so it hurts Islamic State, that's good.
Well,
That's kind of where he is.
and I know there are a lot of people that view Russia as our arch enemy, and in fact they are. I mean, they do try to thwart us in many different ways, and Putin cannot be trusted. But it's funny how right now, if in fact Putin is going in to help to save his guy Assad, and by fighting ISIS. Mm-hmm. It's funny that the angle that you hear in our country is that the U.S. is worried about what Putin's really up to, that he's trying to prop up Assad, when I'm sure Assad wants them in to not just prop him up, but to actually fight ISIS, because we're not going to go in there and fight ISIS. We're not.
No.
We've already shown.
And the Russians are afraid of Islamic fundamentalists in their own country,
Yeah.
in Chechnya and in other places, all along the southern part of Russia. So, that phrase, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, applies in this situation. I suppose you could argue that at least.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge some of the chat room comments real quick. Tamara was saying, I think Fiorina was smart not to say that she didn't trust Trump to have his finger on the nuclear trigger. She may end up being his VP candidate, and that remark would have come back to haunt the GOP.
Wow, what a dream team that would be, those two.
But I'm saying, and like when she was asked about that, would you trust it? She made a conscious choice to not answer.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, that's a great point by Tamara.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought it through to that level.
I said the same thing to Brian yesterday.
Yeah. And it did seem like she whiffed on the very first, on this very first answer. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was odd, since the whole country is talking about Donald Trump's remarks about her face, I thought it was odd that they brought up the finger on the nuclear button as the first issue, because that's just not what everybody wanted to hear and see, and we knew at some point she was going to get to it, and it probably played better for her because her first answer, like anybody else, she seemed like she just had a little case of the nerves. It's the first minute of the debate, but an hour in, when she finally got the chance to address him on that, the fact that she said, the way she played it by saying, I think the women of America got exactly what you meant, Donald, or Mr. Trump, or however she referred to him. I really thought that was smart, to not just make it a him against her, but to say
him against women all over the
women
US.
Get what you were meaning, and without saying you're a pig or you're disgusting or people don't believe that you, quote, cherish women. The way I thought the way she handled it worked pretty well. Worked definitely well to her.
She also called Hillary Clinton a liar 3 times in the space of 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So she's a great attack dog for the GOP.
Yes.
And that's why she's. I think one of the reasons the party was very happy to have her up on that big stage.
Yeah.
I really feel like every time she opened her mouth, though, she said something memorable. For example, our previous topic, the whole issue of drugs, when she shared that personal story about her own child, like, how do you not?
Yeah.
Her stepchild.
Okay.
That's her stepdaughter. And that's awful.
Yeah, and I have a part of her actual quote here. She said, "My husband Frank and I buried a child to drug addiction. The pot today is different than the pot that Jeb Bush admitted to smoking 40 years ago." I'm not sure. I don't think she would throw that out there unless there's some. I don't know if she just means that it's more.
So did her stepdaughter die of pot overdose?
She was referring to the overdose.
Said drug addiction.
She was trying to pivot off of.
No one dies of a pot overdose.
Yeah. No. So she's.
So I think that's apples and oranges. It really is.
She said, but
everyone's against heroin.
Yeah. It seemed like an odd time to bring it up, but I guess she was looking for when she could interject it because
you get sympathy points.
She talked about when
when
the stepdaughter had died, and she said they asked us to sit down. Frank collapsed in a chair. I sat on the carpet next to him, my arms wrapped around his knees. Our daughter was dead, thousands of miles away. It was actually alcohol and prescription pills and bulimia.
She died at the age of 35.
Apparently, what happened?
So
but
it's kind of a red herring.
It is, but it also. One of the criticisms I've heard about her, because a lot of people are saying that she did win the debate, but one of the criticisms I've heard about her is that she still is, she doesn't show enough of her, her real personality. Allow people in to really, which is obviously a criticism of Hillary Clinton as well, that she's quite guarded.
Absolutely.
So...
Yeah. She's type A all the way, Carly Fiorina. She seems very brittle. She seems very driven. She seems. She may have a charming side. I have not seen it displayed publicly.
She needs to start showing that sense of humor. If in fact people love that. More than anything else, that's what people loved about Ronald Reagan. I have the world's most serious job, but I'm not going to take myself too seriously. That's what they.
Hey guys,
loved
I'm going to have to go in a minute, but I have a suggestion for you.
Yeah.
Yesterday, speaking of President Reagan, we were able to tour the Reagan Museum. And we did a video that's in your system, Samia.
Oh, cool.
And you can play it. Kinsey played it last night. And it's, I think for the viewers this time of the day, probably haven't seen it, they would love to see it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So
I will have...
We sent it in via Dropbox. It was put into the system. I don't know where it is in Bit Central or however you guys can access it, but it's there and it's 3 minutes long.
Yeah, if she played it yesterday, then I should be able to just find it in our files.
Absolutely.
Hold on one second while I just... what would it be called, though?
It was called Reagan Library Museum Tour. And Neil Wolf or someone at the assignment desk can guide you to it if you don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it, but I'll find it. We'll find it.
Or you could just text Kinsey and ask her where she found it, where she put it.
I'll ask Mike.
Okay. Well, I got to go, guys, but it's wonderful to talk to you, and Hooner for president.
There you go.
Have a safe drive.
I like being on this side of the camera asking the questions. Thanks, Steve Areno.
All right, guys.
Bye.
You bet. See ya.
I can't believe, Samia,
that was so fun.
That was such a great conversation. I'm 20 minutes late.
I don't even think I feel like they're letting it slide because it's the post-geo. Like, normally they would come and bother you, right? But I think it's because they know it's...
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll pop in there, and then I'll probably come back. Oh, you're getting more
I'm
calls.
accidentally calling myself.
Oh.
That's weird.
So, hopefully I can come back.
Why, at this point, why leave? I'm a bad influence. But seriously,
Yes,
we're in such an engaged conversation right now that I feel like the momentum. I mean, you can go. I can play some clips. I'm going to play the clips of presidential candidates responding and reacting to
a lot of this
debate.
is Steve's interview stuff, right?
No,
from last night?
this is actually stuff that Fox National sent. A lot of the candidates spoke directly with Fox National right after the debate. They shared their reaction and thoughts on how it all went. So if you want to walk over there for a few minutes,
I know I better for at least a few.
Go ahead, and I'll play these clips, and by the time you're back, the clips will have been played. So let's start with how Carly Fiorina, since we've talked about her quite a bit, how she felt post-debate.
All right.
All right, guys, stand by. Let's listen to Carly.
A lot of people hadn't seen me. In fact, going into the debate last night, still about half the country had never heard my name, didn't know I was running for president. And so this was a huge opportunity for me to continue to introduce myself to the American people. And what I'm finding, honestly, is if people hear me, if they see me, if they understand who I am and what I would do, they tend to be supportive. And so I was really pleased with last night. I also talked about the fact that we lost our younger daughter to addiction. I think what the American people want to see is who you really are. And not every occasion calls for a smile on.
All right, so those were the two quotes sent to us from Carly Fiorina. I'm going to go ahead and read some of your comments from the chat before I move on and share with you other presidential candidate responses to the debate. Let's see what you guys are saying. I did notice that someone was talking about Carly Fiorina making a choice not to smile. I believe it was Ale saying Fiorina not smiling was a great move. She looked strong by not smiling. Les Chowmain saying she looked like Hillary 2.0 as a result. Cheryl saying CNN was just trying to start a fight and wanted mudslinging. Carly Fiorina didn't whiff on anything. What are you referring to? Randy M. Not sure who he's asking that to. Les Chowmain saying Rubio sounded the most competent and most knowledgeable about everything political, but don't know if he can walk the walk. Okay, interesting take. Well, since you brought up Rubio, why don't we hear how he felt after the debate? This is his post-debate reaction.
Saw some of the promos, and it looked like they were promoting a pay-per-view boxing match, and then of course once the thing started, you could see very clearly early on that it was going to be one of these things where if you wanted more time to speak, you were going to have to interrupt somebody and jump in. And so as the thing worked in, people started doing more of that. But the format was the format. I mean, no matter what happens, you've got to do the best you can in the time allotted to communicate your message. We can disagree about the format, we can like it or unlike it, or basically come back later and analyze it. But the key is, each of these are an opportunity for us who aspire to the highest office in the land to tell people who we are and what we would do if they give us a chance to be president. And that's what I try to do at all of these debates. So yesterday was just the second one of a series of these, and we'll be at it again, I guess, in 6 or 7 weeks. I mean, the president doesn't run the economy. We have those people talking about how many jobs they created when they held this office or that office. Government doesn't create jobs outside of government. The jobs are created by the private sector. The job of policymakers is to create an environment where the private sector creates jobs. But national security is a responsibility of the presidency. Being commander-in-chief is the most important job of a president. And our next president, on their very first day in office, could very well face a global threat. Our enemies aren't going to take a 2-week honeymoon period and wait for the United States president to catch up. They're going to expect you to be ready. They're going to do what they're going to do. And so our country has a right to expect you to be ready on the very first day. And it is important that our candidates for office have taken this seriously as they prepared to run. There is a reason why I chose not to run for re-election and I'm running for president. And the reason is because after a very short time in Washington, it became apparent to me 2 things. Number one, the political class in Washington, D.C., in both parties, are completely out of touch with what's happening in our country, from the debt to people struggling paycheck to insecurity around the world. And I realized, number 2, that the only way we are really going to be able to change that is to elect someone to the presidency. So when I miss a vote in Washington, it's not because I'm out playing golf. It's not because I'm out vacationing or at home watching television. If I miss a vote, it's because I'm not running for president, because I want to lead this country and tackle the issues that Washington and the Senate are unable to tackle, primarily because we don't have a president that will sign or support the meaningful changes that our country needs.
All right, so those were all the clips that we got of Rubio speaking after the debate. Fox sent us quite a bit. They sent us a whole 2.5 minutes of Rubio. I want to read a few of your comments, your guys' thoughts on Rubio. D saying, in my opinion, SK, Rubio was the winner of last night's debate, but he still doesn't have my vote. D just rocking, why does he not have your vote? Please elaborate. Rachel chiming in saying Rubio was great on stating his stance and staying away from the reality show aspect of the debate. I do like the fact that Rubio, in his post-debate reaction, acknowledged the fact that the network seemed to be hyping this up like a pay-per-view fight or something and making it this big ordeal, this big event, this big show, as opposed to what it should be, and that being a political debate. Les Chow Mein says he loves Rubio's ears. He has Buddha's ears, which represents compassion and wisdom. Tess chiming in saying Rubio is well informed and seems to not be easily derailed from his goals. I like him a lot. And I can see a couple of you guys now talking about how Carly Fiorina did. Deep just rocking saying Carly did a fairly good job of that too. She did, especially how she didn't jump into a battle with Trump. All right, so moving on, I'm going to play a few more clips for you, and then Ron Hoon will be joining me again so we can continue our discussion about last night's debate. Let's see. Let's hear from Carly Fiorina again.
Well, there are only two things we can do to reduce our debts and deficits: grow the economy and cut spending. Grow the economy and cut spending. The good news is if we cut spending in the right way, we help to grow the economy. So example, we have a 73,000-page tax code today that is crushing small businesses. Small businesses create 2/3 of the new jobs in this country and employ half the people. So if we take a 73,000-page tax code and make it 3 pages, we're not only reducing the number of people necessary at the IRS by a lot, but we're also lifting the weight of government off of small businesses.
All right, obviously Carly Fiorina seems to be a fan favorite in terms of how well she did yesterday. Another candidate that a lot of people are talking about is Ben Carson. Let's hear what Ben Carson had to say after last night's debate. Let's go ahead and just cue this up.
There's also a meningitis vaccine video.
All right.
Moments ago at the latest Republican presidential debate, suggesting there may be a link between vaccinations and autism, something Dr. Ben Carson disagrees with. For more, we are joined now by retired pediatric neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson. Doctor, great to see you tonight. So let me ask you, because some walked away from that exchange. Trump himself suggested that you and he are in agreement. Just for the record, do you agree that there is any sort of a linkage between autism and vaccines?
No, I think what he was referring to is agreement that the vaccination schedule needs to be adjusted so that you're not giving people such a big load in such a short period of time. I think if you ask him about the autism, he would be the only one who can really answer that. But he indicated to me that he had an understanding of what I was saying.
Do you believe that story, that a child was vaccinated and then shortly thereafter got autism? I mean, his suggestion seemed to be there was a linkage.
Well, what you have to recognize is that almost all children get vaccinated, and there are a certain percentage of children who also are autistic. So if just about everybody is getting vaccination and some of them become autistic, if you don't think about this logically, you'll say that the vaccine caused the autism, when in fact autism occurs in a certain portion of the population.
Right. Quick question on this because there's a lot of talk on this on Twitter. Do you think it is an irresponsible suggestion to intimate that there is a connection?
Well, you know, we don't even have to intimate or not intimate it. There's been so many studies done that it's been disproven on so many different levels. It's just a matter of what people want to believe at this stage.
Let's talk about the debate. How do you feel about it?
Well, I didn't like the format very well, and I thought that the moderators pretty much lost control. And I would love to see a format in which there were less people, or in which they provided, you know, at least 2 minutes to give an answer, so that you can actually have enough time to explain, rather than do everything in sound bites. You know, the American people deserve better than that. Having said that, you know, my people tell me during the debate we acquired 300,000 new Facebook friends and $1 million, so I can't complain too much.
Do you feel that you...
I loved how he ended that with Facebook friends and gaining money for his campaign. That was a great quote from Ben Carson. One of the topics obviously discussed in that clip that I know that you guys in the chat room are now talking about are the role that vaccinations play, or if they even play a role when it comes to children and autism. I'm going to go ahead and read a couple of your comments in the chat room. Frankie Phoenix saying, if a doctor who has decades of experience with vaccines assures me that vaccines don't cause autism, I'm taking the doctor's advice over a businessman's Googling. Let's see. Autism isn't caused by vaccines. That's a myth. Rachel chiming in. Cheryl saying, he said on the stage that children get too many vaccines. Frankie Phoenix saying one doctor back in the 90s published it, and then he redacted his claim in the 2000s after hundreds of mega studies came out proving he was wrong. And Tess personally isn't a fan of Ben Carson's suit, saying it isn't a bad suit, it just looks like something out of the 1970s. D Just Rockin' agrees with Rachel that it's just a myth, but I also think that the doses of the vaccine should be given in lower doses over a longer period of time. Meanwhile, a couple of you guys chiming in defending Ben Carson's suit, how liking the suit. Cheryl saying it's a nice suit. So I guess you guys have differing opinions on the suit. It's okay to disagree, guys. Joe Foley chiming in saying Ben Carson talks a lot of sense, but he needs more fire. He comes across as too soft. Little Cottage Shop LCS saying Fiorina was good. Rubio has the charm and intelligence that the cameras will love. Les Chowmain saying Rubio under any normal circumstance would be the perfect president. Handsome, young, intelligent, a minority like perfect. Too bad he's facing Trump. Interesting take. Tess saying, I still love Carson. I think he did well. There wasn't really a standout moment, but he held his own and is still my number one. Thank you, Ale. And Rachel saying, I like Carson's soft approach. Makes him look like he isn't deterred by the drama of the race. All right, so I like all your comments. Continue to send those comments in the chat room. While you guys continue to comment in the chat room, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a few more clips from last night's debate. Sorry, not clips from the debate, reaction clips from candidates after getting off the stage of the debate. Let's see. So we've done Carson. We've done Fiorina. We have not done Chris Christie. Let's hear what Chris Christie has to say after last night's debate.
There's a lawlessness to this administration. You don't want to enforce the immigration laws in cities. You can have sanctuary cities across the country. The president will look the other way. I want to make it clear to the voters this morning, with the President Chris Christie, sanctuary cities will end at the beginning of this administration. And we will enforce the law, whether it's marijuana laws across the country or whether it's this. We'll enforce the law, and Hillary Clinton should be held to the same standard. And by the way, she should be transparent about it too and answer questions, which she's unwilling to do. What we should be doing regarding guns in America is focusing on criminals. We spend too much time in politics, folks in Washington in particular, focus on law-abiding citizens who want these guns to protect themselves, to hunt, and to collect. We need to focus on the criminals. And when I was U.S. Attorney for 7 years in New Jersey, we did a record number of gun cases against criminals. They're not going through background checks. They're not buying these things in gun shops. They're buying them off the street in the black market, and they're using them to commit crimes. We take those people off the street, the violent sociopaths, and we put them in jail. We're going to lower our crime rate and also make it safer for folks who are law-abiding citizens to own guns. Let me just say this. It's something I've learned on the campaign trail the last few months. No one in either party is sufficiently talking about and addressing the issues of really beating down angry middle-class voters. And I sat and listened to that back and forth last night with Carly and Donald, comparing their resumes and how much money they've each made or lost for each other and for their companies. And I just felt like I had to jump in and say, listen, this is not about you. We need to be talking about the concerns of real folks out there and what we're going to do for them if we get to be president of the United States. People really feel like these candidates are talking too much about themselves and not enough about the people that they want to serve. And so we need to be out there and talking about their concerns and their problems. You know, their kids are loaded with student debt. They're having trouble paying their bills. They feel like they've suffered from the worst economic recession recovery since World War II. And they feel like this president is acting lawlessly, and his Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's caught the same disease. They want us talking about them and their concerns and not about each other. And that's what I tried to bring to the debate last night.
All right, so that was Chris Christie's reaction to last night's debate. I want to continue reading some of your comments in the chat room before I move on and play another clip featuring another candidate reacting to the debate. Rachel's saying, I don't like being shouted at by candidates. I'm an adult. Don't talk to me like I'm a child being scolded. I like Carson and Fiorina for that. Beverly saying, I think Trump is leading the polls because America is sick and tired of politicians and they want to see someone coming up bold, loud, and not following the crowd. Frankie saying he speaks softly but firm, referring to Carson. I would feel more comfortable in general around Carson than any other candidate. Joe Foley says, okay, he doesn't need to shout, just be more assertive. Cheryl, however, feels his softness shows weakness to other countries. It's just how it's looked at. Let's see. As far as Chris Christie is concerned, I just asked you guys your take. Cheryl likes Chris Christie. DJ's Rockin' saying, I'm just so sick of all these candidates wasting our time attacking each other. Just tell me what your plan is for America and how you will do it. Very well said. Very well said, DJ's Rockin'. Joe Foley, he's not doing brain surgery now. He's in the race to be president. He needs some guts to make people listen. Tess saying, time for Christie to go home, maybe take a vacation. He has no chance. I thought he sounded desperate. Beverly Hooper saying, I love the way Christie introduced himself and he gained interest from me on how he is making this about the American people and not politics. Okay. Lots of different reactions. Speaking of candidates, let's see. Why don't we give some attention to candidates that didn't get as much stage time as maybe you think they deserved? Starting with Mike Huckabee. Let's hear what he had to say.
We accommodated Nadal Hassan, the Fort Hood shooter. We accommodate the terrorist detainees at Gitmo. I've been down there. I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm amazed at how much we accommodate them. It's ridiculous. And you're telling me that a county clerk in Kentucky, who is following not only her First Amendment constitutional right to believe as she wishes, but also who is following the only law that she has in front of her. The Supreme Court issued a ruling, but nobody from the other two branches of government has implemented that law. And I think we just have allowed ourselves to fall and surrender to judicial tyranny. Sean, I think this is the biggest issue for the next president. Will you actually exercise the power of the executive branch, or will you just let the judiciary run the whole country? This is a deal that makes no sense whatsoever. It is a deal made with a bunch of madmen who have consistently for 36 years vowed that they would wipe Israel off the face of the map and bring death to America. And they never changed that rhetoric. You don't make a deal and you don't help load a gun that is pointed to your own head, and that's what this deal does, Sean. You know, it wasn't helpful to me because my fight is not with the other Republicans on this stage. Those are my team members. We're all wanting to be the quarterback, but I want to be the quarterback because I play a better game, not because I can break somebody's leg who's on that stage with me. We've got to unite together, and everybody on that stage, and this is why I said it, everybody on that stage, every day of the week and twice on Sunday would be a better president than any of the Democrats who are running on their side. And I don't want to get into the spitting war with the other Republicans, because quite frankly, I wasn't kidding. I think most every Republican, not only on that stage, but the stage before, every one of them are qualified to be in an administration. And they should be.
Huckabee sounds so nice, I feel like. I mean, he doesn't seem very attacking at all. And one of the things that, was it Ron or Steve said earlier, that Huckabee himself, or Steve said it earlier, so Huckabee himself is actually a genuinely nice guy. So that's always something to take into consideration. Moving on, this is Rand Paul, though he didn't speak as much as he did in the first debate in terms of proportion of stage time. He did make the comment about the drug issue. And let's hear what he had to say overall in terms of how he felt the debate went last night.
Yeah, I do. I think it was a good debate. I think we mixed it up really well. And I think you're going to see a reshuffling of things. I think we're done with it being a one-person dog and pony show. I think right now you're going to really see it mixed up. And I think you're going to see a realignment of the numbers after this. We were talking, I think, about the Iranian agreement, and then all of a sudden he goes off, with some diatribe about me. So I think it's wearing thin. I think what he said about Carly Fiorina is wearing thin, and I think people are just tired of it. That's why I'm predicting there's going to be a realignment of this, a reshuffling, and the American people are finally going to wake up and say, really, don't we really want someone a little more serious to be in charge of the nuclear arsenal? I don't think we want someone who's calling foreign leaders names, for goodness sakes. Well, I think it's the only way we would believe that they're really going to comply is if they really want to be the community of nations, they would recognize Israel. They would release their political prisoners. All of that, yes. And so I think that's when you could have a real bona fide agreement. But I don't want to rule out negotiations, and I don't want to say that I'd immediately tear up the agreement, because there is a chance that maybe they will comply.
All right, guys, so you've heard from Huckabee and Rand Paul. Rachel's saying Huckabee made himself look like he should never open his mouth with his opinion. I didn't like listening to him or Cruz, especially when Cruz kept staring into my soul. Little Cottage Shop saying Huckabee has so many valid points. Tess saying, for whatever reason, I've never taken Huckabee's candidacy seriously. I don't dislike him. I just think I'd rather spend a day with him at a barbecue than elect him for president. Cheryl likes Huckabee. Rachel agrees with Tess. Beverly agrees with Rachel in the fact that Cruz creeps her out as well. And let's see. Little Cottage Shop believes Cruz was too rehearsed looking into the camera. Not very good. In terms of Rand Paul, Cheryl G says, or believes rather, that Rand is a self-absorbed jerk. Thomas Shelton wants to know if Rand's mom drove him to the event. Deidre's rockin' saying Rand Paul just turns me off. Tess saying everything about Rand for me spells N-O. No way do I want him as our president. Halala saying Rand can't help if he was born with curly hair. Some of us just have it and can't do anything with it. Haha. Halala chiming in, responding to some people who were commenting on Rand's hair. Halala defending Rand, at least in terms of his hair. Maybe not his policies, but definitely his hair. Okay, so I think I've gone through all the clips of candidates reacting that they've sent me so far. I can always pull some more up later this afternoon. Oh, wait, there's one more. Ted Cruz, the guy that's staring into your soul. Rachel, let's hear what he had to say.
Look, I thought the debate was terrific. I was very happy with where it went. I would have liked more airtime. This is the second time in a row Fox did the same thing where they didn't ask me a whole lot of questions. But you know what? The reason I'm encouraged, if you look at the first debate we had a month ago, our momentum exploded coming out of that debate. We had, in the first 100 hours after that debate, we had over $1.1 million as people all over the country went to tedcruz.org. Tedcruz.org contributed online. I'm hopeful we'll see the same thing after the debate tonight.
I'm so fascinated by the way the debates impact contributions and Facebook fans and followers and likes and Twitter followers and things like that. So it's interesting that Ted Cruz brought up something that Ben Carson also brought up earlier when we heard his reaction. Now, some of you at home may be wondering, well, how did the Democrats take last night's debate? Fret not, guys. I have a couple clips to share with you. First is a clip from Hillary Clinton's camp in terms of what they thought about the debate. And then second is a statement from the Democratic Party. Let's see. Where is that Hillary one? It looks like I just lost it. Did I just lose it? Okay, well, and in the meantime, while I try to find that, this is the statement from the DNC that was sent in. Missed the GOP debate. Lots of attacks on women, immigrants, other Republicans, and even a Reagan advisor, but not a single serious policy proposal that would help the middle class. All right, and this is the Clinton campaign reacting to the debate.
Back in 1 minute.
All right, I just realized that the volume is not up on this clip. Let me go ahead and restart that.
We think that it is it's a win in that it did illuminate for the American people that we think that this is a Republican Party that's really out of touch from where most Americans are, and it shows that they don't have a lot of solutions for the problems that are troubling people's lives. And it's important for people to know that, and that's a win.
All right, so I think that is every single clip thus far in terms of people reacting to the debate after the debate. You actually timed that perfectly. I just played my last clip.
Good.
In regards to people's responses to the debate.
Well, yeah, I also had to get a little food.
Yeah, you gotta eat. I mean, I keep, my snacks up here and eat them while I play clips. I'm like, string cheese, let's eat some more.
Mm-hmm. The Samia diet.
Lots of protein, guys.
Yeah.
I want to read a few more of your guys' comments. Do we have K6 response? Tess, I don't have it right now. Fox News is sending me clips periodically, or not just me personally, but the whole group of news organizations.
Okay.
And so if I get any additional sound bites from different candidates post-debate, we will play them. So right now I don't have Kasich, but I will look for you. Ted Cruz always makes me feel like he's preaching to me, D just rockin' said. Little Cottage Shop, nope, not Cruz. I don't get it from him.
He does sound like a preacher. Who said that? Halala? No, wait. Who said that? Well, whoever said it was right. That also has a tendency to make him...
D just said it.
It has a tendency to make him sound kind of melodramatic. Like every speech.
Well,
and therefore...
The clip that I just played, it was a short clip. All he said was, once again, they didn't give me any time, and no one asked me questions, and Fox did this to me too.
Cruz said that?
Yeah. I mean, that's
really?
the gist of it, yeah.
Yeah, but here's my response to that. I have a 2-word response, Senator.
Be interesting?
There's that one. And there's a second one, which is Chris Christie. I don't think it was in their plan at all. I think their plan of attack was to focus on Donald Trump. And in about 30 seconds, I want to ask you guys a question in the chat box about Trump. I think their plan was to focus on Trump and then work out from there. I'm sure that Trump got the most airtime. And Jeb Bush got a lot of airtime. Ben Carson got good airtime, but not as much as Jeb Bush, I don't think.
By the way, the ratings just came out for last night.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. I want to ask the chat box, because CNN's previous highest rated debate in their history of, what do they have, 35 years now on the air, something like that, was 6 million viewers.
Really?
That was their previous high of all time, 6 million viewers. They got 23 million. That's like a 400% increase over anything they've ever done before. And it's a simple question, and I really want to hear the chat box's response to this, you guys. Is that because of Donald Trump?
Yes.
I mean, literally, it's just the man who people have grown to either love or hate because of Celebrity Apprentice?
We just want to see what he's going to say next. Who's
So,
he going to get mad at?
was there... I just want to know if there's anything else. I know the Donald Trump factor is adding a lot of interest to the race and viewership that is really ridiculous. It's kind of like when Tiger Woods was really good. Anytime Tiger Woods played in a golf tournament, the ratings would, I don't know if they would go up 100%, but they were always up way more than if he didn't play in a golf tournament.
Right.
And it's sort of like if Donald Trump wasn't in this race, still with all the interesting personalities, Chris Christie, laying it on the line like he does, everything else.
Well, I still think there would be an increase in viewership
Yes.
as opposed to the past, just because there's so many candidates, so that alone creates some sort of intrigue.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
But I don't think it would have been like 23 million.
No, I don't think so either. But just yesterday there was a story that a lot of people are pushing the woman that runs the Democratic Party. And now I'm blanking on her name. But she's a Debbie Wasserman Schultz. A lot of people within the party are pushing her to add more debates because the Republicans are the ones getting most of the talk.
Right, so if everyone focuses on that, maybe they've already picked their candidate in their mind.
Well, that's the problem. People think she's basically doing it as a favor to Hillary Clinton so that Hillary can move along on the path to the nomination and not have to answer too many questions or be put in too many challenging situations. That's the sort of the thinking that's out there as a result. But they're not. I don't think they're going to get 24 million. There'll be a scholarly debate, on economic policy between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. But the sparks aren't going to fly. Is that all people want to say?
The chat room.
Okay, here we go.
Overwhelmingly, yes. Yes, Tess. Yes, says Mike D. Lori Campbell, absolutely. Joe Foley, it has to be.
Even if you don't like Trump, says
to,
Tess, you want to be there for the train wreck.
He just rockin' says yes. Les Chaumain, CNN only got good ratings last night because conservatives finally tuned into that channel.
That's an interesting point.
Tess saying, first time I'd turned on CNN in a few years. Rachel saying, Trump just made the ratings for CNN. Love him or hate him, he is the one making this election interesting. That's the fact.
Ale says, I believe so, Ron. I've heard many say that they have become viewers because Trump is someone that is truly stepping up for the U.S. Now, I will just say, there's somebody I know who's a pretty big Donald Trump supporter. I don't want to name names, but they don't like, the constant insults. They like him as a candidate, but they don't like the constant insults. And people didn't even laugh last night when he went after Rand Paul.
Right.
It was like, believe me, there's a lot of material to work with on his face.
His first opportunity to speak, he was like, first of all, why is this guy on stage?
I know.
It was just so mean.
I know. But, and that is his shtick and everything. But so this person I'm thinking of, who's a pretty big supporter, would rather support him not because he insults people, but because it actually seems believable to a pretty sizable portion of people out there that he will be a strong leader, and they feel like we're coming out of an era of mushy kind of, we just don't want to rock the
Everyone's
boat.
too politically correct.
And everybody is too politically correct. That is also true.
Mike D saying Trump is real and Trump is fun. Trump defined the issues all the other candidates are talking about.
That's also very true. But what is with Ted Cruz? Ted Cruz, every time he gets a chance to talk about Donald Trump, he loves the guy. Do they have some kind of a double secret handshake deal that if Donald wins the nomination, Ted Cruz is his vice president? I'm asking you, Samia. If anybody knows, it's you.
No one called me.
I like how you're I don't even.
Joe Foley saying it's like anything. If you get a super well-known person doing anything, ratings will skyrocket.
Okay, but then, so Joe, I think you're right, and I'm always really interested in your input because you're watching from afar. You are not going to have to make the decision of who you're going to go and pull the lever for in the voting booth. But the rest of us are. So Joe watches from the UK, but he's an astute political observer. And I just wonder if we really are heading into a whole new era in politics where it's going to be way more celebrity-driven. I really wonder.
Ale also believes, by the way, that Trump... No one thinks that the ratings were what they were with or without Trump. Right. Ale saying, I've heard many say that they have become viewers because Trump is someone that is truly stepping up for the U.S.
Yeah.
Bill Cottage Top saying, first time I've ever watched CNN.com. Dee's Rockin' saying, me too, says, I haven't watched CNN in over 15 years. Ale wants to know, Ron, your thoughts on Carson's immigration plan if it has not been discussed on here already.
Well, I think that I know I have to answer it with this. Ted Cruz was accusing him of having a plan of amnesty. And Ted Cruz said, I'm the only one who's fought against amnesty, and he was sounding like a preacher, the whole time he was speaking. I have a hard time getting past that, too. But I think there are two arguments here that, to me, just don't quite make sense. One is, it's not amnesty if you require them to go through a legal process. You can't just do what Obama's doing right now, which is de facto amnesty. Hey, we're just going to have, quote, deferred action. You can stay here as long as you want, and we'll look the other way. That's no good. That's basically saying, I, the president, have decided we're not going to enforce certain laws. So that's what's going on there, and it's not good. I think that's the wrong approach. The proper approach would be to come up with a common sense system because they're right, 11 million people are not going, you're not going to deport 11 million people. But that's the other false argument, is that you're going to have actual, like, scheduled deportations. Okay, everybody on board the bus, where we have 1,000 Greyhounds here, everybody get on board, and we're sending you back to Panama, or wherever you're coming from. I think that's also a false argument. If in fact you're an opponent of illegal immigration, you simply make the system hard enough to work with here in the United States, and people will gradually say, well, I'm going to go back. They're cracking down on me. I can't earn a living, because even though Trump says there's a lot of bad people that are coming in, I still think 99% of the people that come in just want to work, and they think they can have a better life and a better economic situation here than in Mexico. Which, speaking of the economy, big headline. A few minutes ago, the Fed announced they're not raising interest rates.
Oh, wow, that's big.
That is really big.
Yeah.
That's a shocker to me.
Yeah.
So we'll see how the market closes by the end of the day.
By the way, just to lighten things up in regards to the
this guy,
debate.
This guy.
We haven't even brought it up. So apparently, people watching the debate, some people on social media, specifically Twitter, I noticed it on Twitter, weren't talking about the candidates at all. They were talking about this guy in the background.
Yeah. Samia.
So the guy
Go ahead, pop his picture
who sat behind Jake Tapper.
Yeah.
There he is. Now,
what, does he look like some kind of male model to you, or something like
I'll
some
be
movie
honest,
star?
I'll
What's
be
the
honest.
big whoop?
I don't think he's that hot. I think he's okay. He's fine, but he's not like, oh my god, drop dead. Oh my gosh, like, you know what? I think that criminal. Remember that hot criminal?
Oh yeah, yeah, in California.
Right, Northern California, the
right,
mugshot.
yeah.
He was more like he had this. Like, I understood the weird appeal with that.
Right.
This one, I'm just like, he's a
I'm sorry.
standard, normal.
This guy
normal.
looks.
I mean, I'm saying he's not unattractive.
Yeah.
But he's not like David Beckham.
Okay. He looks like, what's the what are the vampire movies?
Twilight.
He looks like one of the Twilight guys.
Well, you know what though? A lot of girls
Doesn't
girls are obsessed. Oh, I can see that. He looks like what's his face? The main guy.
Maybe. I just think he looks like one of the vampires from Twilight. Anyway, I figured we would have to at some point.
So people want to know who he is, like.
Yeah.
Let's see. So this guy's name is Gregory Caruso. He's a movie director. Oh, he's in the entertainment industry.
Huh. Okay.
According to his online bio, Caruso, who used to have a beard in the past, according to Us Weekly, was born and raised in LA and has a true appreciation for the history of film, specifically the golden age of cinema from 1925 to 1950.
Interesting, isn't it?
Turns out he has a connection to politics too, which is why he ended up front row at the debate.
Really?
He is the son of millionaire real estate developer Rick Caruso, that makes sense, who has poured millions into past GOP candidates, including that of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, there you are.
Rick Caruso has designed major places in Southern California, for example, the Grove.
Oh, that's his?
The shopping center. Yeah, he's
This
my friend
that's
is into,
interesting.
one of my best friends is into city planning, and that's how I know the name Rick Caruso.
Okay.
But yeah, so he's...
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's that. So his star power is going from here to here now.
So,
he's going to be the next big thing.
I wonder if he was sitting next to his dad, or if he's like, "Look, I've donated so many millions. I got us one seat. You can have it."
I don't know.
So, how about the thing between? Speaking of money, How about the thing between Donald Trump and Jeb Bush on whether or not Trump gave him money to try to get casino gambling
I
in
don't remember
Florida?
this part. It must have been like eating.
Yeah, you must have been. It was pretty
else.
interesting. I mean, Jeb acted like this is going to be the zinger of the night.
So
That he basically said, "I'll tell you, Donald Trump. I'll tell you one person he did give money to, and that's me, because he was trying to influence me to get casino gambling in Florida." And Trump said, "That's a lie." And then Jeb Bush said, "No, it's true." And Trump said, "I guarantee you it's a lie, because if I wanted it, I would have got it done." So it was that kind of feisty interchange between the two of them. And I guess somebody looked into it, and it was like a group representing Trump that made a donation, but it was more to the Republican Party. It wasn't like Trump called him up and said, "Hey, I'm going to give you $10 million. I need to get casino gambling in Florida." But that was the way Jeb Bush portrayed it. So they'll do some fact checking on that one later today. That one seemed like kind of a weird moment, because Bush, you could just tell Bush was like, "Nah, I really got him," but it didn't. Then it kind of fizzled.
Well, speaking of Trump, we have another question from Ale. Ron, we have seen many social mistakes from Trump recently, yet he continues to grow in popularity. Yesterday's debate showed more social mistakes from Trump. Will it hurt him this time around?
I just don't think so.
You think he'll maintain his presence in the polls?
Because somebody else in the chat box said he's just not politically correct. And so people actually sort of thrive on the fact that for the first time it does appear that we have a candidate who really can say whatever he wants to. I mean, what could be more insulting than saying, "I don't like John McCain because he got captured"? I mean, that's
I don't
such
like
an
people
insult.
who got captured. Like,
Let's see you, Donald. Let's see
Go to
you
war.
kept in a cage in North Korea for a few years.
or ISIS, or
Yes, and see how you come out of that. So that was so insulting. And then the whole insult to Carly Fiorina's face.
I'm sorry,
it's
don't.
Just ridiculous.
I don't know.
But anyway, I really thought
I
thought that he had jumped the shark with the McCain comments,
Yeah, and
but that was 2 months ago.
I was shocked that it didn't hurt him in the polls. I
Not a
really
bit.
thought that McCain
Not a
comment
bit.
and
Yeah.
just the way he viewed vets in general, according to that comment, would have hurt him, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Tess saying, how is Trump going to find all illegal immigrants and ship them out? It's kind of asinine to me to even make that claim, unless it can be done.
Yeah. See, but again, I think that's one of the false arguments that's out there. I think that you simply what you could do if you were an opponent of illegal immigration, not legal but illegal immigration, you could say we're going to actually start arresting every person that we find that hires somebody in the country illegally, whether they know about it or not. Knowledge of the law is no defense. They always say that, like in traffic school. Well, it's too bad you didn't know that you couldn't make a left turn at that intersection. Lack of knowledge of the law is no defense. So it could be a similar situation here where they, and in fact, in Maricopa County, they actually have gone through and tried to get a few employers. You remember the car wash? The Danny's Family Car Wash? Where they've gone after the owner of Danny's Family Car Wash? Well, that's been one story. In the last couple of years.
Yeah, I moved here a year ago. I mean, not even a year ago.
No, but it's been happening even since then.
Like, last
but anyway,
6 to 8 months.
Then there was another case.
I don't know that story.
Yeah, there was another case of a sandwich shop here in town. It was a similar kind of a deal. But it was back when the sheriff was doing more of his crime sweeps, which he's knocked those off sort of because of all the federal, I think because of a lot of the lawsuit activity against him, etc. So it's not like you have to go find people. You just have to make it so difficult for people who are in the country illegally to find employment that at some point they would finally say, well, maybe I did have it better back in Venezuela or whatever, and I'll go back. So there's that part of the argument, but the other part of the argument that is also false is that it's amnesty. So I want to just get back to, because the question was, what about Ben Carson's take on immigration? For Ted Cruz to just call it amnesty it's throwing a word out there, because if you simply say, you know what, effective immediately, all people in the country illegally are now legal. That is amnesty. But I don't think that's what he's talking about. I don't think that's at all what he's talking about. He was talking about a guest worker program, extended stays, maybe a little bit more of a liberal policy on who can come into the country legally under a guest worker program, and that saying you cannot deport 11 million. Again, I do believe that's a little bit of a false argument. But he and Rubio and others, I think, are saying we're going to set up a legal and lengthy process where I think basically the people who did come into the country illegally admit to their wrongdoing, pay fines, actually go and have to wait their turn because there are a lot of other people who are trying to applying for legal citizenship and have to go behind them in terms of where you are in the line in the process. I think that's what they're talking about, and that is a completely different deal than just saying, okay, effective January 1st, you're all legal. So I think amnesty is a red herring, and I also think you can't deport 11 million people is also a red herring.
And how you find it's
yeah.
Right. Mike's saying, I think Trump will eventually compromise on the deportation, but he's not going to back down until he's making a deal, and it will be something similar to what you're saying. Let's see. Les saying, stop giving them jobs, stop giving them welfare, and they'll leave our country voluntarily. Les Chowmain also saying, do you want a president who is all polite and respectful but is a complete idiot? We had that. His name is Jimmy Carter. Aww.
Oh, here's Rachel who says, she remembers that Hooner, and it was Uncle Sam's was the sandwich shop or something. Then Sheriff Joe got caught up in the profiling thing. So that was the name that I was trying to remember. Okay, here's Ale who says, Ron, after the second debate, do you have your eye on a certain candidate, perhaps already supporting them? So I have a policy, it's my own policy, that I don't even donate to candidates because, number one, I'm a cheapskate. But number two, I really think that I owe it to the viewers not to be, I mean, it's a free country, and we don't have a rule that says you can't, there's not like a company rule that says you can't donate. But I feel like it removes me one step from the process, and certainly I'll decide who I'm going to vote for. I find the whole thing, the whole process this year especially fascinating, but less because of Donald Trump and more because of the number of candidates and the wide range of views.
So many people.
When you can have Chris Christie on one side of the stage saying, if you're lighting up, smoking pot in Colorado, enjoy it because it's coming to an end the day I come into president. On the opposite side of the stage, you got Rand Paul saying, just, quit with all the dumb pot laws. So you have
focus on what matters.
You have Donald Trump kind of implying that he says, I'm going to be really good on women's issues, kind of implying that he's pro-choice without saying so.
Because he doesn't want to upset.
Yeah, and then you have Carly Fiorina offering, did you see that moment where she was talking about the Planned Parenthood video?
Think so.
Oh my goodness. I mean, she's obviously seen the video because she says, how can we as a country stand by and watch a fetus who is in the form of an unborn child with arms and legs kicking, heart beating, and they're harvesting body parts. Now, I don't know if that's in that video or not. I haven't watched it. But she almost looked like she was on the verge of, I don't know if it was tears or anger, but she looked like she was really on the verge of becoming incredibly emotional about it. So my point again is, you have people that are within the Republican Party. There are a lot of different viewpoints on a lot of different issues. I find it fascinating. I haven't decided who I'm going to vote for. And I do think that we can start to make we can start to say who we think is going to drop out, and we can also predict who we think is going to rise in the polls. Because remember, after the first debate, did we not talk a lot about Ben Carson?
Yeah.
I mean, how he was so quiet during much of the debate, and then the last 5 minutes, it's like he took over that stage, right? And so...
Oh, yeah, with his final answer to how about no one else has done surgery and all that.
Yes, right. And he had another really good answer as well. So I think my prediction here is that, however, I was wrong in my prediction last time that Marco Rubio was going to start to percolate after the last debate. And I thought he did really well again in that debate last night. I thought Rubio was strong. But I don't think he was any stronger than he was in the first debate, and he can't seem to get above about 6%. So, I mean...
He sounded really smart, though, and very well poised.
Correct,
Rubio.
but here's the funny thing. We were discussing it in the studio, Rick and I, and a couple of guys on the floor crew. The biggest thing he has going against him is he's 44. And remember we looked it up one day?
He looks like he's...
34.
Yeah.
Doesn't he? And yet Ted Cruz is 44, and he looks like he could
we've
almost
talked about
be
this.
50.
We've talked about that here.
Yeah.
They're the same age, and yet they look
completely
a generation apart.
Generation apart. So I think it's not Rubio's time, and probably the best thing that could happen to Rubio
Vice president
would be for a Bernie Sanders or a Hillary Clinton to win, and then give him 4 more years. And I think at that point, finally in 2020, he'll be pushing 50. He'll look 40.
I can't imagine the fact that in 4 years he'll be near 50. He looks so young.
He looks like a kid, I know.
He's not 44.
Yeah. Tess says Marco did great last night. I think his youth is working against him. Yeah, baby
that
face
happens
is right.
in politics.
Yeah.
We've dedicated an hour and 42 minutes to this topic.
Okay, but hold on. Let me just see if there were any other main... I felt like there were so many points that you and I wanted to...
there are. I mean, I don't...
You already discussed how it was ridiculous how the first thing out of his mouth was, what's Rand Paul doing up here?
He just was ready to give us a quotable soundbite for Twitter.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, get the hashtag GOP debate trending. It was the number 1 trending topic yesterday.
And why wasn't why wasn't Paul ready with a bunch of zingers for that kind of stuff?
Right.
Why? I mean, even if he wasn't going to have a huge debate point, why not just say into the microphone, because I still can't believe that's your real hair, Donald. Or, I'm just waiting to see who the next person is you're going to insult, you idiot. Something. Have some kind of snappy comeback. So.
DJ Rockin', wasn't Kennedy only 42 when he was elected? But Kennedy didn't look like he was 25.
Okay, now get this, you guys. Rachel says, Hooner, Joe says there are really 43 presidents. Obama is 44th, right? You guys are both right. And here is today's other Hooner history lesson. This is a conundrum. How can Joe, all the way over there... Joe, what is your hometown, by the way, in the UK? I know you're not in London. You're somewhere a little farther afield, which I'll be interested to find out. Joe says there were 43 presidents, and Rachel says, but Obama was 44th. And I say you're actually both right. And the answer is we had one president, Samia, that was elected twice with a middle term in between. Yeah. And I'm actually blanking on which one it was, but it'll come to me. This is what happens when I stay up till 9 o'clock watching debate stuff. It was
great discussion.
Was it Grover Cleveland? Was it? It was one of those. It was in that era, kind of the 1880s. I think it was Grover Cleveland, who was like the 21st and 23rd president. So I'm remembering numbers, but I'm not 100% sure on the names, so I hope I got it right. Let me just go look here. So who was, I'm going to say 21st and 23rd president. 23rd president. I think I got the numbers right. And so, come on. Okay. Where in the heck is I going to have to go to? Hold on, everybody. This is such a good point. I want to be able to make it. Okay. Stand by. List of U.S.
I mean, I could have done it on the computer.
I know. List of U.S. presidents. Oh, list of U.S. presidents by height, in order. Who was the shortest president? That's hilarious that they even have a wiki page on that.
There's an internet page dedicated to everything in the world. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you know this by now.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's already a page dedicated to what their Secret Service names are, what they want on the $10 bill. I don't know.
Okay, here we go. It was Grover Cleveland. Thank goodness. There have been 43 people sworn in and 44 presidents. Grover Cleveland served 2 non-consecutive terms, 22 and 24.
Still pretty good. You were there. You got the right one. Ron wins the Hooner history lesson.
So let's see. So we had one of the takes that people had, and I'd be curious to get your input on this, Samia. It's one of two things, and I think most of the pundits are wrong. I heard a lot of the pundits this morning saying as the debate wore on, Donald Trump became less talkative. And they felt it was because the debate was getting into more specifics and he wasn't comfortable on especially a lot of foreign policy issues.
Right.
But that's the conventional wisdom that's out there. Mm-hmm. However, I actually think it was something else.
What?
I think he was just literally getting tired.
Because of standing for so long?
Yes, and when he did the post-debate interviews, he almost seemed like he was ready to fall asleep. And he's working on New York time. So, you know, it's ending at 8 o'clock, 8:30 out here, is 11:30 out there. Right. And even if he didn't spend 3 days in debate prep like other people have been known to do. So, it's just, I think it was more that he literally was getting tired than anything else.
Makes sense.
So that's that.
Have we covered? I think we've covered everything.
I also like that Trump toward the end seemed like he was loosening up enough. He was like, I think he did a fist bump to Ben Carson.
Oh yeah,
and smiled at him a couple of times. He even gave not a high five, but a low five to Jeb Bush on something. And for the first time in a while, he seemed completely not angry, but just kind of laughing with everybody else.
But he didn't go into it like that.
No, that's for sure.
He went into it angry.
Yeah. So here's what I learned in that. If I'm ever negotiating with Donald Trump, negotiating some big deal, wear him out for 3 hours.
For some reason, is Twitter down? I don't know what's going on, but like my Twitter isn't loading.
Huh.
Oh wow. I think Twitter's down, guys. And you can't even tweet about it. Twitter is not working.
That's interesting.
I don't know what's going on. Is it just me?
No, not if you went to 2 different sources.
No, I mean, but it could be just my account?
No. It's got to be down.
You think so?
I'll go to mine.
No, it could be just my account.
Oh, Samia, now you've been kicked off Twitter. You've already been kicked off Periscope.
Or maybe not. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm getting tweets from a minute ago. Let's see, what is this?
Did I get fired from Twitter?
We have announced that we are banning Samia Khan, FOX10, from further participation in our website.
Okay, I found it. It worked.
Okay, good. Oh, look, yeah.
And look at Jeb looking from afar. That's
right.
It's like, oh, I want a fist bump too. Jeb feels left out. I don't like people being mean. I don't even this is just so mean. I don't like people being mean to each other. This is making me uncomfortable. I am going to protest debates.
You're going to what?
Start protesting the debate because it's just so...
Well...
Ale saying, Ron, your predictions for the next polls to be released.
My prediction, that's a great question, and I do have to actually go start prepping for my Chris Wallace stuff for tomorrow.
Other people had issues on Twitter. Maybe Twitter was briefly down.
Yeah, for a minute or two. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
So my prediction is that Trump will continue to ride high in the polls. I don't think that Ben Carson did anything yesterday to surpass Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. He might actually bump down a couple 3 points. Because, as Steve Krafft said, it's just such a different era now, and the bombastic is what's working. Mm-hmm. And so I think that Chris Christie should be up a couple of points, if for no other reason. He got a lot of airtime, a lot more airtime than a lot of these others. Huckabee's support will drop. Walker is basically just about toast, just about over. I would not be surprised to see Scott Walker.
Just focus on being governor.
Yes, and I would not be surprised to see Scott Walker, who not that long ago was being talked about as the guy.
Front runner.
The guy. To see his numbers drop into the 1 to 2% Bobby Jindal range.
Bobby Jindal bad?
I know. I know.
I like how Jindal's the new adjective. Like, he's Jindal status.
Yeah. So, I wonder if Jindal's thinking to himself, dang it, if I could have won that first JV debate like Carly did, and I could have been on that stage, it could be me the whole world's talking about. I don't know.
But they wouldn't.
Probably not.
I don't think he says enough things that are profound enough
So
for us to talk about.
I think you're right. I think that Walker could drop to almost to Jindal levels, maybe not a 1 or a 2, but a 3. I think that Chris Christie's going to bounce up from a 2 or so where he is. He's in the 1s and 2s, and I'm not going to be surprised to see Christie start doing some 5s. I think the most interesting candidate by far to watch and see, and Rubio might grow by a point or two, but I think he's taken the slow, steady approach to this whole thing. I think that Jeb Bush helped himself. He'll grow by a couple of points, but I think the interesting thing is Carly Fiorina. To me, the question is, can she move out of the pack where she's grown from 1% or 2%, before the Fox debate, to can she now not do a 5 or a 6, but can she do a 15 or a 16? To me, that's, if she does, and
Wow.
I actually think it's quite possible. I really do. That will be the story coming out of the debate.
So when do we get to hear? When are the next poll numbers gonna come
Well,
out?
so they'll poll over the weekend, and I'm afraid we're going to have to wait.
There's no poll until next week.
Well,
There's got to be a poll today.
They're doing internet polls. It doesn't matter. You can vote as many times as you want.
Oh, that's a sham.
Yeah. So by about next Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm here all week. I'm here all week.
Wow, you're not taking a day off.
Correct. We shall see. We'll see what happens. So there's my prediction: is Christie bumps up, Walker fades, Huckabee fades. Although he has a very loyal core, he may not fade too much, but I just don't see him generating a much more. He, like you said, he needs to go back to doing his talk show.
I didn't say that. You said that.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I didn't say
I'm
it. It
hearing
must have
my
been
own.
you.
I'm hearing my own thoughts now.
Either
Perfect.
you or Steve. It wasn't
Yeah,
me. I
okay.
definitely didn't say that. I'm nice to people right now.
And I also think that the likability factor for the Addams family will never be higher. I gotta go. That's it. I'm done. Ba-dum, boom, boom.
1 hour and 53 minutes dedicated to politics.
That was pretty awesome.
My head hurts. Let me see what I can play for you guys that is the complete opposite of politics. Because there's so much.
See you, Samia.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
I do want to acknowledge the story from yesterday about the cop who was shot. It was Andrew Hasbin's story yesterday. Really fortunate scenario in the fact that the cop did not die as a result of his injuries, but this cop shot multiple times after a traffic stop. Police were looking for the wanted suspect. They apprehended him yesterday afternoon, and this is Andrew's story that aired yesterday. Then after this, I will show you video of the suspect himself. Stand by.
Shooter hiding in an apartment about a block away from the shooting scene.
I don't believe this was an ambush. I believe this was a traffic stop with a person that made some decisions that he wasn't going to go to jail.
Police say the 3 suspects were inside the car when the officer pulled it over near 12th Street in Campbell around 2:45 this morning. As he approached, one of the 3 inside opened fire. The officer was hit multiple times, but he was wearing a bulletproof vest, which likely saved his life. However, the 8-year veteran was still hit.
The majority of our officers do wear vests, and we encourage that. In this case, thank goodness he was wearing his vest.
After the shooting, the suspects took off. Police found their Ford Thunderbird in a parking lot a few blocks away and spent the day searching the area. They found the suspected shooter in a friend's apartment and raided the home early this afternoon.
Saw a lot of police just creeping over here slowly, getting in between the bushes.
Looked like something major was happening.
Neighbors watched as police pulled out the man they believed to be the shooter.
They drug him out in handcuffs. They said they wouldn't hurt him, and they didn't, and they took him away.
This always tugs at us, especially when it's one of our own. To be able to put closure on this within 12 hours of the time it happened is extremely exciting.
All right, guys, now you are looking at video of the suspect that is accused of shooting the officer multiple times. I'm going to go ahead and read you the information that we have of, about him so far. This sent to us from Phoenix Police. He has been identified as 26-year-old Michael James Rogers. They have sent us the paperwork, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up some of that, read some of that, so that we can have more information. But the victim was a 40-year-old male officer who has been serving for 8 years. Specific details: shortly before 3 a.m., Phoenix police officer conducting a traffic stop for a routine violation approached the car. One of the occupants shot the officer multiple times. There were 3 people inside that car, and one of them is the man that we are looking at. This man is the one accused of shooting that officer. We also have a mugshot for him. So let me go ahead and pull this up for you. This is his mugshot. Here it is. That is what was sent to us this morning from police. Meanwhile, the other big story from yesterday, not only yesterday, over the course of the last week, to be honest, because last Thursday was that crazy day where we had 6, apparently, I-10 shootings. Obviously, it is a story that you guys want more updates on. Yesterday, Bill Montgomery held his, usual press conference. We weren't able to stream that live for you yesterday because all our live streaming devices were elsewhere, but we did record it in full, so we'll be able to play that for you a little bit later on. In the meantime, Jessica Flores did attend that meeting, and Jessica Flores did her own story, just kind of an overview in general as to what's happening, the latest in that investigation. So go ahead and watch this, and you will be a little more informed on this story.
Investigators don't have a suspect in the I-10 shootings yet, but Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery says if and when they do, he's intent on bringing the shooter or shooters to justice.
Characterizing what's happening as domestic terrorism aptly states just how serious law enforcement is taking this situation and recognizing the impact to the public.
Though Montgomery says because of state laws, the suspect would not face state terrorism charges in Arizona. Instead, a suspect would face endangerment, criminal damage, and assault charges.
The statutes that we do have that address quote-unquote terrorist acts are aimed at public utilities and what are sometimes called soft targets within our state's infrastructure.
Now on week 3 of the manhunt, the Department of Public Safety is hoping the evidence from all those shattered windows and about 1,000 calls to their tip line leads them to those responsible. The county attorney's office has ramped up the reward by $20,000, making it a $50,000 reward for information leading to an arrest.
I am encouraging those who may have assisted or have information that you need to come forward now and provide it. Otherwise, you could be at risk of criminal charges in the future.
Good old Bill Montgomery giving us that update. Again, we do have that press conference cut in full, so we'll be able to play that for you guys a little bit later on. I know you guys like tuning in and listening to what Bill Montgomery has to say every week when we get those press conferences in. So don't fret. We will get that to you a little bit later on. It is now 12 o'clock, guys. That means I am going to be getting out of here, getting lunch. But I won't leave you empty-handed. Mike Pace will be joining you in just a sec, so stay tuned for more news now, and I'll see you guys again at 1:30. While we transition, you guys can look at our lovely weather map.
reward for information leading to an arrest.
I am encouraging those who may have assisted or have information that you need to come forward now and provide it. Otherwise, you could be at risk of criminal charges in the future.
Investigators don't have a suspect in the I-10 shootings yet, but Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery says if and when they do, he's intent on bringing the shooter or shooters to justice.
Characterizing what's happening as domestic terrorism aptly states just how serious law enforcement is taking this situation and recognizing the impact to the public.
Though Montgomery says because of state laws, the suspect would not face state terrorism charges in Arizona. Instead, a suspect would face endangerment, criminal damage, and assault charges.
The statutes that we do have that address quote-unquote terrorist acts are aimed at public utilities and what are sometimes called soft targets within our state's infrastructure.
Now on week 3 of the manhunt, the Department of Public Safety is hoping the evidence from all those shattered windows and about 1,000 calls to their tip line leads them to those responsible. The county attorney's office has ramped up the reward by $20,000, making it a $50,000 reward for information leading to an arrest.
I am encouraging those who may have assisted or have information that you need to come forward now and provide it. Otherwise, you could be at risk of criminal charges in the future.
Investigators don't have a suspect in the I-10 shootings yet, but Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery says if and when they do, he's intent on bringing the shooter or shooters to justice.
Characterizing what's happening as domestic terrorism aptly states just how serious law enforcement is taking this situation and recognizing the impact to the public.
Though Montgomery says because of state laws, the suspect would not face state terrorism charges in Arizona. Instead, a suspect would face endangerment, criminal damage, and assault charges.
The statutes that we do have that address quote-unquote terrorist acts are aimed at public utilities and what are sometimes called soft targets within our state's infrastructure.
Now on week 3 of the manhunt, the Department of Public Safety is hoping the evidence from all those shattered windows and about 1,000 calls to their tip line leads them to those responsible. The county attorney's office has ramped up the reward by $20,000, making it a $50,000 reward for information leading to an arrest.
I am encouraging those who
Happy Friday Eve, everybody. We are almost there to the weekend. It is Thursday. We are just a day away from TGIF, so welcome everybody. It is 12:04 on this beautiful Thursday, and can you feel it? It's finally starting to be outside cooler. You could feel it. It's almost here. Come October, November, we are in paradise. That's when we get all our friends to join us from the Midwest and East Coast, right? They're all like, hey, how you doing? Isn't that the case always? So always put on a smile. It's a great day. We got a lot to catch you up on today. I'm going to start off first with just some of the top headlines that have been going on today and of the news. So let me get that set up for you right here. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to start you off with the headlines. And let's roll with it.
In the case of the shooting of a Phoenix police officer in an early morning traffic stop yesterday. Anita Roman live at the county jail downtown.
Good morning, Ron. Just 24 hours ago, we were at the scene of that shooting as police were searching for these suspects. Now they are in custody here at the 4th Avenue jail. And it turns out that police are telling us this attack was not planned. This didn't seem to be any type of ambush. The suspect said that he simply didn't want to go to jail. Unfortunately, that is where he ended up. Let's take a look at some video. This morning, we do have video of 26-year-old Michael James Rogers as he has been identified by Phoenix police arriving at the 4th Avenue jail. He's been booked on several counts. 2 counts of aggravated assault on police officers and 1 count of unlawful flight from law enforcement vehicles. This all started early yesterday morning, as we mentioned, about 2:45, when a police officer from the Phoenix Police Department stopped Rogers for a violation. And this is all in the area of 12th Street and Campbell. Well, we're being told as the officer approached the car, Rogers, fired several shots at the officer, striking him. That officer taken to the hospital in serious condition. However, the chief told us yesterday it could have been a lot worse had he not been wearing his police vest. We're being told that's when the people in the car drove off, right after they fired the shots. So the car, the Gold Thunderbird, was found a short time later, just blocks from where the shooting occurred. And then later on in the day, police found 3 people who were inside the car at a nearby apartment, and they also found a gun. The suspect arrested. Take a listen.
This always tugs at us, especially when it's one of our own. To be able to put closure on this within 12 hours of the time it happened is extremely exciting.
At this point in the investigation, police are looking into whether they will be charging the other 2 people inside that Gold Thunderbird. As for the police officer, he is 40 years old, an 8-year veteran with the Phoenix Police Department. Again, he was wearing his vest, so he was struck in the upper torso area. I believe we were also told that he was struck in the arm, last listed in serious condition. But the good news, Ron, he is expected to be okay.
All right, Anita, thanks. 2 Phoenix police officers hurt in a crash. This happened late yesterday. Sky Fox over the scene, 16th Street in Dobbins. Look at that crunched up truck. Now we're told that that truck slammed into the patrol car. The truck then crosses the center line and hits that school bus with 12 children inside. Now, let's get to that part first. You can see from those pictures the kids are all okay. They're up walking around, being moved to a different school bus. The officers have serious injuries, but will be okay. Police say speed was a factor. Driver of the truck likely to be cited. DPS confirming yesterday morning's damage to the back window of a car driving on the I-10 was caused by some sort of road debris, but that doesn't mean they're easing up on the hunt for the I-10 shooter. DPS putting up billboards on the 10 as well as the 17, asking anybody with the info that is going to solve this crime to call the hotline. Of course, they're also giving you the number there for the shooter hotline and silent witness. Now, officers are handing out flyers to get the word out. Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery says his team is already gearing up to prosecute who's ever responsible. He considers the shooting spree an act of domestic terrorism, but because of state laws, a suspect would not face state terror charges in Arizona. Instead, they would face endangerment, criminal damage, and assault charges.
The statutes that we do have that address quote-unquote terrorist acts are aimed at public utilities and what are sometimes called soft targets within our state's infrastructure.
Now, if you have any information on the shooter or shooters, you are asked to call the DPS hotline at 602-644-5805. The reward for information leading to an arrest in the case is up to $50,000. Well, with tensions at an all-time high, it seems, surrounding the problem we're having in this country, with officer-involved shootings, body cameras are becoming a vital tool. This morning, we're getting a look at the chaotic scene Scottsdale police dealt with that ended with officers opening fire. Now, back in May, police say 40-year-old Dennis Burnett was driving a stolen truck when he caused some hit-and-run crashes. Just before the video was taken, an officer ordered him not to move. Instead, he tried to run the officer over, getting into that truck, and then the They opened the fire. Burnett is recovered from his injuries, is now in jail, facing several charges.
All right, so there is the top morning's headlines, but we are going to take you right now out to Detroit, where Vice President Joe Biden will be making some remarks on the revitalization of that city. So we are going to go there right now.
Let alone a new job. He was trapped, cut off from opportunities, cut off from his future. And that was the moment that I decided to fight, not just for my grandson, but for everyone. We all deserve a transportation system that works. You know, for years, it felt like no one was listening, but that's all changing because we now have a new ally in the fight, and his name is Mike Duggan. Today, my great niece Miranda can count on DDOT to get her to Cass Tech every day. Detroiters like my grandson are waiting a little less and trusting DDOT a little more.
Huh?
And today is proof that Detroit and DDOT are moving forward. So with that, I would like for you to welcome our mayor, Mike Duggan.
Great job, kid.
Isn't Cindy wonderful? I mean, she reflects what this city aspires to. We're again blessed today to have my friend, Vice President Joe Biden, for his 5th visit to Detroit just since I've been in office. And I think next to Washington, D.C., we are the city he's visited most frequently in the last year and a half. And what the Obama administration has done as we have been fighting to come back has been remarkable. You're seeing every week the abandoned houses come down in this city because of the support of the federal government. And when the vice president was here last year on Labor Day, he went with me to a neighborhood in East English Village where there was a picnic in the backyard, a neighborhood where we're knocking down the burned out houses so we can sell the good houses. And when I told him about auctioning the good houses, he took my iPhone away from me. And he started to go through the auctions. That one went for $20,000. That one went for $10,000. I didn't think I was going to get my phone back. He can actually explain to everybody in the country how Detroit's home auction worked. That's the depth of sincerity this administration has in its commitment. And then he came back later to a very important job training program where women of color are being trained in computer programming, IT services. It was a very powerful day, and recently, with the support of Labor Secretary Tom Perez, the Obama administration just awarded us another $5 million grant for job training for the hardest to employ individuals. But what brought us here today was a dinner that happened my first month in office. They called and said, the vice president wants to take you to dinner. And I said, really? He said, yeah, he's picked Roma's. And I said, do I get to choose? He said, no, he knows the best Italian restaurants everywhere. He chose. I said, okay. So Don Graves and Gina Matrakis, who were on assignment from the White House, who did such a great job, worked it out, and we had the most wonderful dinner. Once it took him a half hour to greet everybody who was in the restaurant on the way to the table. And he talks with everybody, which is just how this man is. And he said, if I could do one thing to help Detroit, what would it be? And I said, we need buses. And he said, buses? He said, of all the things I thought you were going to ask me for, I would not have guessed buses was the first priority. But the truth was, in January of 2014, you remember how bad that winter was? and 40% of the buses on many days were not running. People stood on street corners in the freezing cold for hours, and at times the buses would show up and the bus would be full and they'd still leave them on the street corner. It was heartbreaking. And when a third of the households in this city do not have a car, it is very hard to see how we ever have an economy where everybody is included in the recovery if we can't get people to work. Right? So I said the single most important thing Detroit needs is buses. And as I look at this, our mechanics here have done an amazing job. They took buses that were in accidents. They took buses that were in accidents, they welded them back together, they shoved them back on the road. The drivers, who were the face of the organization, took the grief, even though they were the ones showing up for work, but just did a phenomenal job. I said, I need to support them. And I said to the Vice President, we need 80 new buses. And if you look at the way the federal formulas work, we'll be able to buy 30 more over the next year and a half. But we'll never catch up if we don't have another 50. And I don't know how it can be done, but it's critical to Detroit's recovery. He said, let me see what I can do. And then every 2 weeks, I get a call on my cell phone. And I learned the only people who called me, where the caller ID was blocked, were insurance salespeople and the Vice President.
Looks like they lost the feed there for a second, so as soon as that pops back in, we will take that live feed again. But you know, sometimes that happens with technology. It just goes in and then it goes out and then it'll come back. But when it does, we will go back to the Vice President. He wasn't speaking yet, but he will shortly. Oh, and there he is. Look at that. In and out. Like I told you guys, we will go right back there.
In, prove your need. If you do that, you'll be fine. But this is what I can do for you. I said, Mr. Vice President, that's all Detroit ever wanted. We just wanted a chance. And so Dan Dirks and the team here put in a phenomenal application. We got the award for a quarter of all the money spent in America, and we started.
Again, they're having all sorts of issues in Detroit. Man, that is something. All right, we're going to go back to that maybe one more time. Hopefully they fix their little kinks there that they have, but we'll go back to it when it happens. But I do want, I picked a really fun story for you guys, and that is probably the best tease because I'm going to give it one more shot. I just saw it's back on. I'm going to give it one more try. But I do have a really good story for you guys about would you ever rent furniture long term? That story's coming up next. It's kind of a fun little talker. So we will go to that after this conference.
And so, Mr. Vice President, to give you an idea of the impact you've had in this community, it looks like this week we are going to have more than 550,000 riders on our buses, the highest number in 3 years. People are starting to trust the bus service again. They're starting to get access to opportunities again. And with that, I want to introduce the man who, as I keep saying, is Detroit's very best friend, Vice President Joe Biden.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Please sit down. I'm going to take my coat off, but that does not mean a long speech. It's just that it's hot, and I suggest other folks in here take their coat off. Look, folks, first of all, I think, and I said I was in Los Angeles with a great friend of mine last night, a great mayor, Mayor Garcetti of Los Angeles, and I was talking to an awful lot of people, and I said, you know, I said, one of the best mayors, I think the best mayor in the entire country is Mike Duggan. My assistant is Duggan. Mike Duggan. And I tell you why I say that. He moved back into a city like many of you that was flat on its back. flat on its back. And with him and you, help from the governor and probably the single best ally in all of Washington that anybody ever has, with your Congresswoman, Debbie Dingell, you all stepped up. It's pretty miraculous what's happened, Debbie. Pretty miraculous what's happened. Because, you know, Detroit was declared dead on arrival after when the Great Recession hit. No, I'm serious. It was, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. And speaking of preaching to the choir, Bishop Edgar Van is here too. It was the bishop and the rest of the clergy that are here. It was citizens who decided they had enough and they're going to get up and demand more, like what you did. That story about your grandson is absolutely the story of so many Detroiters, so many people. And you know, Detroit isn't just an important city, it's an iconic city. All around the world. I've traveled now over 1 million miles as vice president around the world. And this is not hyperbole. Everybody in the world knows of Detroit. Detroit was the economic muscle and engine, figuratively and literally, of America's Renaissance in the 20th century. And the idea, I remember the president, the idea that we're not going to do everything in our power to bring back not just a great city, but an iconic city, that any way we could help was not thinkable. Because Detroit is like its people. It's resilient, it's tough, and it's defined by a work ethic that is unmatched by any place in the world. And folks, Detroit's back. Detroit's back. And I might add, notwithstanding what else you hear, America's back. America's back. You're not going to hear any more about outsourcing. Your children are going to hear the word insourcing. We're going through a whole generation of outsourcing. I remember being with the dean, with Congressman Dingell. I don't know how many times I showed up in this state at factory gates that were being locked and all the equipment being taken up and put on the back of trains and the back of ships going around the world. But that time has ended. You're back. Industries are back. Automobiles. Debbie, how many times did we hear back in 2007, 8, and 9? You just have to be realistic, Joe. I know you're an automobile man. I know your dad was an automobile guy. But that time has passed. Remember, Debbie, we told we're never going to sell more than 9 million cars. We're back. Detroit's back. American automobile industry is back. But the thing about all great cities is they adapt. You're not just back because of the auto industry. You're back because of clean energy, what you're working on here. You're back because of IT, research and development. Look, the ticket to the middle class has always been manufacturing. That's been the ticket to the middle class. And ladies and gentlemen, that's back too. And just as the country has gone from economic crisis to recovery to being on the cusp of real resurgence, Detroit is off its back, off its knees, standing up again. And like all Americans, all Detroiters needed was just a fair shot, just an even shot. Nothing more, nothing to be asked for. And a fair shot, what this is all about. When the President and I took office, just a little magical mystery tour here, when we took office, the automobile industry was on the brink of collapse. It wasn't just losing, it was on the brink of collapse. Banks froze access to credit. Car sales plummeted by 40%. Automobile plants cut shifts. And in my state, which we used to have the second highest percentage of auto workers in America, everything was gone. All of it's gone. Chrysler, General Motors, Autolake, Mopar, all of it gone. A few months after we took office, the unemployment rate here is 22%. 22%, almost 3 times the national average. I remember getting briefings in the White House from the economic team about what was happening here. Half your street lights were out. They did not function, half your street lights. 114,000 homes were abandoned in this great city. And the infrastructure, including your wooden water pipes, that's how old they are, 19th century, they were crumbling as well. So, some argued for letting market forces just work their will. Remember those arguments in those days from some of our friends? Let the market forces work. Well, we would never. Debbie would never allow us. Her husband would never allow us. The president wouldn't allow us. We would never, never abandon the people of Detroit. It's like abandoning the heart of America. And it's not hyperbole. That's what it was like. And so, folks, the president and I decided to bet on the automobile industry, bet on Detroiters, bet on this city. We invested $80 billion, with 6 in 10 Americans saying we were making a mistake. I know I'm talked about in the administration as Mr. Automobile. It wasn't just me fighting for this. There were some disagreements, but the president was fully there. So we came up with $80 billion. Remember how we heard this is pouring money down a rat hole? They'd never come back. No, I'm serious. It was highly unpopular, even among some Democrats. 6 out of 10 Americans thought it was a very bad idea. But guess what? We helped bail out, helped push through Chrysler and General Motors. And we said, and in the process, we saved 1,500,000 jobs. Because what you all understand here in Michigan, for every 1 man or woman on the line, there's 5 people down the line whose job dependent, including my father, who his whole life sold automobiles. An awful lot of people depended on the industry. And in addition to that, since they came out of bankruptcy, they've added, in addition to 1.5 million jobs we saved, and that's not disputable by economists today, we added 300,000 middle-class, good-paying jobs back. The automobile industry did that. And in the process, the American people recovered 90% of what they invested and may ultimately recover it all, but 90% of the $80 billion was paid back. Ladies and gentlemen, we work with Mayor Duggan to invest $300 million in federal funds to help plot this strategy that's still paying off. I have with me today my policy director, Don Graves, who was the point person for the first early years for the entire effort here in Detroit. The mayor keeps trying to hire him back. He ain't coming, Mr. Mayor. The Secret Service will stop him. But every time we show up, I don't know where Don is. This is my 12th time to the city. Don's in the back. You can see the grin on his face. It grows wider. No, I'm not joking. He comes back and says, you know, look what's happening. Look what's happening across this city. I want to tell you, Mr. Mayor, that there can be federal help, but it doesn't matter a whole lot if you don't have people who know how to manage that help, like you and your team has done. He partnered with the Department of Energy scientists so the city could install 45,000 LED streetlights, with 20,000 more on the way. That saves the taxpayers of Detroit $3 million a year, and you have all the light you need on the streets. With $100 million in federal funds, and I must admit and acknowledge, and he should get credit, with Governor Snyder's help, the city is demolishing 150 abandoned homes every week. We did go to the village. I did get to see. I got to see what your home auction program did. And you've brought in Quicken Loans and Home Depot. It's an incredible, incredible buy. Some of these homes that now that the abandoned homes are cleared are in fact beautiful pieces of property. You're bringing people back in. And you know, all you got to do if you want to see the resurgence here is what I did last time I was here. I went downtown, I went to Midtown, and I went to a new hangout for an awful lot of young people called the Great Lakes Coffee. It's a big operation, as big as this space in here. And it was filled with young millennials, people between the ages of 22 and 35, with their laptops there. What they're doing is they're working downtown, they're moving downtown, they are expanding. Ladies and gentlemen, to add to that resurgence, I'm proud to announce today that Detroit also won as a location, a part of what we call the Composites Institute. Every state in the nation, including mine, I might add, competes for funding from the Department of Energy and the Department of Defense to work on composites, because that's the future. Everything from extremely light decks on our aircraft carriers that allow greater speed and greater durability, all the way to lighter materials to build automobiles and buses and everything that moves in the air and on the ground. That's the future. That's the future. And there was a nationwide competition.
All right, folks, we are going to breaking news here. This is coming from Hillsborough County, Florida, where a bus has overturned in some deep water here. Working to get you the latest details. We don't know if there's children trapped in here or what. We will get you the very latest as it becomes available. But this is from Hillsborough County, Florida. Yes, a big... We are working to get you the details right here. It is a school bus. Looks like in a pond or a little shallow lake here. We are working to get you these details. We know it is in Hillsborough County, Florida. Obviously, a school bus looks like in a small pond. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Okay, just got some more information here. This is what I am hearing right now. A Hillsborough County school bus crashed into a pond off 9 Eagles Drive around 3 p.m. Thursday afternoon, so just shortly ago. The bus was carrying students from Mary E. Bryant Elementary School. All students and the bus driver have been accounted for, and there are no reported serious injuries. So that is very, very good as you look at this situation happening in Hillsborough County, Florida. Obviously, looks a lot worse than it is, because now we do know that there are no students or the driver in that vehicle right now. As you can see, there's not any rescue personnel, so it's probably the best case scenario for what you see there. Absolutely. Don't know how this happened. It looks like it just, you could tell on the top of the screen, it looked like it veered off that way. We won't know any of those details, as obviously it will be an investigation. This is happening in Hillsborough County, Florida. We're going to be taking these aerials. I'm going to write up lower third here. So stay tight. All right, we are continuing to follow this breaking news situation coming out of Florida. School bus is in the pond, but luckily all students and the bus driver have been accounted for, and there are no reported serious injuries. That is the key to this as we look at this. Wow, just devastating scene though. When we first looked at it, we were thinking, oh no, please don't tell us, because it looked very bad the way it was lopsided in that pond. But luckily, people were able to make it out, including the bus driver and the students. What's going to come out of this is we want to know how this bus found its way into the pond. That will be key to helping us tell this story for you, and a lot of the officials are obviously going to be asking that, because it almost looks like it's in a residential pond area. A lot of you are commenting right now, so thank you very much for watching this live breaking news situation coming out of Florida. We're going to continue to try to get you some information as we follow this breaking news situation. Yes, Deed. We are wondering what caused this as well. Obviously, there's a lot that you could be thinking about, but nothing confirmed right now. We will continue to take these aerials while I try to gather some information for you. And this is in Florida, and as you can see, they panned out to try to give us an idea of from the roadway to the pond, and it looked like it just veered off there. And as with any breaking news situation, of course, the tweets do start coming in, and we were able to find this tweet for you, and I will take that for you right now. Look at what Rebecca said. So scary to think my little sister could have been on the bus that flipped into the water. Thank God she was on the one behind. Wow. And that's coming from Rebecca in Florida. What a situation. We're going to go right back to the breaking news scene. And I'm glad the helicopter panned out to give us this angle here, because you could see where the roadway is and you could see where the bus is. We will continue to take these live aerials for you as we try to get some more information for you. You can see right there where the wheels just dropped right into that pond. Looks like it went under a tree and everything. Thankfully, the best case scenario has happened out of this crash, though, because students and driver all accounted for with no injuries. That is a miracle right there. But look at it went under the tree from the roadway. What a bizarre looking scene here, though. Yeah, Joe's saying maybe brake failure. Could be. Could be a lot of things right now. Could be, wow. Obviously, investigators are there, and they're going to be working this scene for a while. Yeah, Tess brought up a good point too. I wonder if the driver had a health issue. Very well could have been. We're working to get you a lot more information, but you know, this is a very fluid story. It's just happened about 15 minutes ago. This is live from Florida, Hillsborough County to be exact. Just happened around 12 p.m. our time, 3 p.m. on the East Coast. And this was an elementary school bus. Luckily, students and driver are safe. They are accounted for with no injuries. D says flat tire is also a good call, Ale. A lot of situations that could be happening right now, but the best thing that happened was we got those kids out, we got the driver out. Luckily, it was still in some shallow water. Didn't go very far off from the grass area. Yeah, now a lot of people are. You figure those students. There's going to be a lot of heroes that come out of this story as well, because you got to imagine the kids were very, very scared at the situation. Your bus is in the water, and you're trying to find a way to get out. And obviously, there's going to be stories of heroism from the first responders to the bus driver trying to get all those kids out of that water. They probably went through the windows or the emergency window in the back. Yes, Ale, we did see skid marks on the grass. You could tell once the chopper goes around the area. You could kind of see it right there, but it's going to have to go. We'll have a better glimpse once it gets rid of this tree right here. You'll see it. It's bizarre how it just flipped over like that. There you go. There's the shot of the tire marks clearly on the grass right there, right under the tree. So a lot of stories that are going to be coming out of this. I want to know how all those kids were able to get out safely. It's going to be a story to tell. This is once again happening in Florida. It just happened after noon our time, 3 p.m. local time there in Florida. Hillsborough County is where it's at. All students and the bus driver have been accounted for, and no serious injuries reporting. Very, very good. Yeah, it looks like on the back that emergency back door is open. Probably most of them were just able to get out that way. What a situation there in Florida. You can see the kids right there. They got some towels on them. Obviously, parents are going to be coming to the scene to pick up their kids and going to be very, very happy because their child is safe. See, you never know what could happen on any day. That's why you really can't take life for granted, because you never know when something like this will happen in life. We're working to get you some more details. We will continue to take these aerials for you, as we got live breaking news on Fox News Now. Thank you all for watching and commenting. Yeah, you can see those clear skid marks right there, right under the tree. Luckily it didn't hit the tree too. If it hit that trunk of that tree, I'm thinking that the accident could have been much worse. Luckily it slid right into that water, shallow end. Kids were able to get out. Boy, they must have been scared though. You imagine a little elementary school child just trying to get home, thinking, my school day is done. And you're thinking, I'm just going to go home, see my family soon, and this happens. I'll take you back to that tweet that we uncovered from Rebecca. So scared to think my little sister could have been on the bus that flipped in the water. Thank God she was on the one behind. So you never know. You never know. That's why you got to take each day at a time. And you got to really enjoy it too. Back live to live aerials in Florida. School bus is in a pond. Officials say the driver and students have been accounted for. It's very good. They're taping this off as it is an active investigation. We thank you all for watching this stream. Anytime breaking news happens, we will take it. We will momentarily get back to Joe Biden speaking in Detroit. But we just wanted to give you a couple more minutes here of this live scene. As you can see, some adults going up to the bus. Jared's asking what happened. We don't know what happened. That is what investigators will be thinking about all day today and into the next day. Frankie, we enjoy that you're part of this community here. What a situation. Luckily, it's not an active rescue situation where this would just be horrible, but it's the best case scenario for what we are looking at. No one injured. Everyone's accounted for. Every child will be able to go into their bed tonight. So wow, we will continue to try to get information for you, but as more information becomes readily available, we will go back to that. And it looks like Joe Biden is wrapping up, so we don't have to take it to Detroit. He is wrapped up. We will stay on this for a little bit. Obviously, the best case scenario for this breaking news situation in Florida, Hillsborough County, Florida. You just never know what'll happen. That's why you really guys got to take it each day at a time. Really enjoy life, because you don't know what might happen. As we continue to look at these aerials, we're obviously going to have to tow this out of the water. That's the least of their problems right now, as they try to figure out what happened. Why did this bus veer off the roadway, make those large skid marks in the grass, and then go right into the pond? Happened just after noon, our Arizona time, and happening just after 3 on the East Coast in Florida. Wow. Just never know what could happen. We'll continue to take these live aerials as I set up. All right, we are going to dip away from that coverage, but once we get more information, we will update you throughout the day on that situation. And luckily, everyone was safe and accounted for. That is the big key. But I wanted to bring up our next story for the day. It's almost 1 o'clock. We're 6 minutes to 1 o'clock, and I thought this would be a fun little Thursday story for us to talk about. Would you ever want to just rent furniture? Well, it's a new business for one man, and he's making it pretty lucrative. He is setting up a service. It is called Furnishare. It's not out here in Arizona yet, but I'm going to show you the story, and then you're going to let me know, would you want it in Arizona? Would you just want to rent furniture and kind of update it every once in a while and not have to buy something and be stuck with it for a while? We're going to get into that, but let me show you that story. Here we go.
They delivered it within 24 hours, so it's very practical.
Allison Teo rented her name brand furniture from Furnishare. It's a website that's part of the sharing economy. The company rents used name brand furniture that's in good shape to people who don't want to invest in, can't afford to buy, or just don't have time to buy new furniture. You just moved here from Chicago.
Right.
So why did you need to rent the furniture?
Because I got this space. I have nothing. My family is coming, and I can't say no, that you cannot come because I've got no furniture. So this was a great solution.
A couch, table, and a dining room table for 4 is costing her $50 a month. Alpi Karelturk founded Furnishare after moving 5 times in 6 years in New York City and found it difficult to sell his furniture.
Either I wouldn't have time to sell the furniture, or I would try to sell it and I just wouldn't find a buyer in time.
So this is how it works. Furnishare will pick up the furniture that you no longer want and have it professionally cleaned and then posted on its website. Someone who wants to rent it can enter a 3, 6, or a 12-month contract to rent 3 pieces of furniture. A 3-month contract will cost you $120 a month, a 6-month contract $80 a month, and a year-long contract $50 a month. Furnishare then splits the monthly earnings with the person who provided the furniture.
A great majority of our customers are young millennials, young professionals who just don't want to make the commitment to buying furniture up front. But they do want nice furniture, they do want brand name pieces, and they want it clean and hassle-free.
Furnishare currently has about 250 items in its inventory. If you're interested, the service is now available in Manhattan, Williamsburg and Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and in Astoria, Queens. Linda Schmidt, Fox 5 News.
So what do you guys think? Should it come to Arizona? Frankie just said $600 a year? Just buy a couch at that price. It's true. That's true. But this is more for, I guess, people that maybe move frequently. Maybe they just want updated pieces all the time to maybe impress their friends. Who knows? But that is a program that just started up. It's on the East Coast. Who knows? Maybe it'll be one of these new takeoff things like Uber was, right? Who would have thought Uber would just blow up like that? But it did. Ale says, I'd rather just buy an $800 couch and call it mine. That's true, right? You don't have to give it up. It's yours. But I wonder, would you be okay with giving your furniture to this program and then getting a cut from it? Maybe you're not the buyer, maybe you're the seller. There's that too. You could be an Uber driver or you could be a furniture person. Interesting. Rachie says, I still think Uber is stupid. Well, yeah, Frankie, good point, Mike. Seems like it's more short term. Yeah, it does. It does. Especially for that girl that was featured in the piece. She said her parents were just coming over and she just got this furniture in. Thank God she did. Could you imagine? The parents come and says, hey, what do you think of my new place? And they look around. Nothing there. Start getting worried. They would think maybe you lost everything. You're not doing so well. So thank God for that program for her. It's called Furnishare. Could be the next big thing. They could replay this tape in a year from now and just be making fun of me that we're all making fun of it, right? Who knows? I do want to get to some other stuff, though. I thank you all for watching. And you guys are really commenting today. Awesome stuff. This was a good story to talk about, right? I try to find these little stories that are little zingers, make you think a little. Say, what would I do in that situation? Would I be a buyer or seller? Then we bring up Uber for the heck of it, right? Another story that is being popular right now. We all know Pope is about to make his U.S. welcome pretty soon. Next week, he will be on the East Coast, New York City, Washington, and Philadelphia. And boy, is the merchandise coming out. Look at this piece, because they are selling a bunch of Pope memorabilia. It's some of the hottest stuff right now on the East Coast. Second to the tickets, of course, to see them. Let me bring it up right here. We're going to showcase you the stuff that just keeps selling off the charts.
Holiest shrine to the Virgin Mary, where Pope Francis will lead an outdoor mass next Wednesday, is the Basilica's ground floor gift shop.
This will be the biggest event the Basilica's ever had.
If you want some papal swag, well then this is the place to shop. His picture is everywhere. You can get these nice golf shirts announcing his visit here next week. There are coffee mugs, mass cards here as well. Take a look over here. The main saying that we're hearing this week is, love is our mission. It's on all the t-shirts here.
We'll be open after the Mass, starting at 6.
It's all inclusive. It's saying, love yourself, love your family, love your neighbors, love the environment. It is just a great big love.
Amy Maloney is director of retail at the gift shop that has one item for sale that takes the cake for $100. Take a look at this. There is a toy Pope mobile here back in the Francis section. Tell me about this. I mean, he is going to be riding this sucker, right?
Yes.
She takes it out of my hand so I don't drop it. Smart.
Yes.
Oh, and look what it does.
Plays the Hallelujah Chorus.
Have you sold any of these yet?
We sold 4 just yesterday.
You did? Okay.
At $100. We've sold about 12.
All right. Many of the gifts available in English and Spanish. I see something up here that's caught my eye. There is a Francis cologne.
There sure is. You want to try it?
I would love to. I wonder what it's going to do, actually. Smell good, make me... Bless you, everyone. It just has that kind of effect. Oh, my goodness. Retailing for about $30, yes. I gather, right?
Yes.
Tell me, it's not the commercialization of Francis, but everybody wants a piece of him. Is that the sense here?
Everyone really wants a memory of him. It makes them feel close to him if they're going to have a T-shirt or a mug that they are going to use every single day.
Ms. Maloney says she's expecting vigorous sales this weekend. Next week, while the Pope is in town, it'll just be too troublesome to shop here. In Northeast Washington, Bob Barnard, Fox 5 Local News.
So a lot of merchandise right there for the Pope. He will be stopping next week, and we're going to have full coverage on Fox News Now on the Pope's arrival. He's going to be going to New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C., doing a lot of events there, and we are going to be covering a lot of those events streaming. So if you can't make it out to the East Coast, don't worry. We've got you covered. We seem to always do, don't we? That's good. Thank you all for being part of this. We are now 2 minutes past 1 o'clock on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, and I do want to get up to some more news that happened that just wrapped up a press conference. GM is set to pay a $900 million fine to settle an ignition switch criminal case. They made a press conference on it, and we will take that. Let me get that set up for you. This is a big one, guys. GM is a huge car manufacturer, and now they got to pay out. Okay, got that loaded up. Sorry, sometimes this doesn't want to finagle right. Okay, we will take that now.
State's Attorney for the Southern District of New York. After an 18-month investigation, we are here this afternoon to announce the filing of criminal charges against General Motors Company related to the company's failure to disclose a safety defect from its regulator and from certain purchasers of its pre-owned cars. At the same time, this office and GM have entered into a deferred prosecution agreement to resolve those charges. As part of the agreement, GM has agreed to pay a $900 million penalty or forfeiture. GM has agreed to the appointment of an independent federal monitor for a period of 3 years, and GM has made critical factual admissions. The monitor will be tasked with ensuring that GM's public statements about safety are accurate and that information related to recalls is shared appropriately within the company. The $900 million penalty that GM has agreed to pay is, by the way, in addition to the hundreds of millions of dollars the company has already agreed to pay to families of victims through a victim compensation program established by the company. That program has provided some measure of compensation for the tragic consequences of this safety defect. Together with the penalty imposed by GM's regulator, its total financial payments now exceed $1.5 billion, and that number is going up. The appointment of a federal monitor will ensure continued government oversight targeted at the issues that led to the tragedies that occurred here in the first place. In a case like this, as I think you'll agree, a case about public safety and about life and death, continued oversight is absolutely critical. So the resolution, as I said, includes detailed factual admissions by GM. The statement of fact details how GM designed an ignition switch for the Cobalt and other compact cars with such low torque that it could slip out of the run position into accessory or off while the car was driving. Cutting power to the engine also cut off power to the front airbags. So if the key slipped out of the run position during a crash, the driver and front passenger could lose the protection of those airbags. Now, GM knew about this low-torque ignition switch for a long time, from the early 2000s, shortly after it was first installed. But it didn't fix the problem back then because GM personnel completely missed the connection between the switch and airbag non-deployment. They didn't then view the torque problem as a safety issue. In 2005, the company even assured the public that it wasn't a safety issue. Then, not until 2012, did they realize it was a safety issue after all, but they did not disclose it at the time they discovered that connection. GM's criminal non-disclosure of the safety defect lasted almost 2 years. Meanwhile, at least one person died in an accident related to the defective switch during that time period. Our investigation of this matter began in February of 2014, shortly after GM disclosed that certain of its older cars had a defective ignition switch that caused the front airbags to fail to deploy during crashes. The company acknowledged that the defect was connected with 13 deaths and many serious injuries. It has since acknowledged 2 more associated deaths. Now, as you can imagine, this has been a deeply difficult case, most especially for the families of the victims who died in GM cars. Deeply difficult. For us, it has been a challenging case for the agencies, for the prosecutors, and for me. As part of our investigation, we reviewed hundreds of thousands of documents. We interviewed scores of witnesses. But that's not why this case has been so challenging. It's been challenging and difficult because we've had to think long and hard about the appropriate resolution in this case. Paramount in our minds, through every stage of the investigation, has been the victims of the defective ignition switch. I met personally with families who lost loved ones in tragic accidents involving the switch. I will tell you that those were among the most searing moments I have ever spent in my 6+ years as a United States Attorney. And so with those victims in mind, and with a deep commitment to holding accountable those who caused such a profound tragedy, we have aggressively applied existing statutes in bringing criminal charges against GM. Now, one thing people should understand about the law, there is actually no existing law specifically designed to impose criminal penalties for this kind of conduct, the non-disclosure of safety defects by a car company. There have been attempts at such a law, but those attempts have failed. Even what's known as the TREAD Act, the law commonly understood to govern motor vehicle safety in this country, does not carry a criminal penalty in this situation where a car company fails to disclose a safety defect domestically. So given the lack of a particularized criminal statute, we have looked at broader statutes of general application, namely false statements and wire fraud. In the end, we can only do what the law allows and permits and what, in our best judgment, justice requires. Here, in our best judgment, justice requires the filing of criminal charges. It requires detailed public admissions. It requires a significant financial penalty, well above what GM has paid and will pay under its victim compensation program. Above all, justice requires measures to make sure this doesn't happen again, which is why we have insisted upon those admissions and the appointment of a federal monitor. This is not only about justice for certain families, but justice for the car-driving public going forward also. In this case, we have agreed to defer prosecution of those charges, notwithstanding the bad conduct here, for several reasons. First, as I've mentioned, the deferred prosecution agreement we've entered into with GM details factual admissions and the company's prompt agreement to appoint a monitor, which, by the way, you don't even get after a conviction at trial. Second, from the moment that top management came forward to disclose the defect in February of 2014, the company's cooperation and remediation have been fairly extraordinary. It conducted a swift and robust internal investigation. That doesn't always happen, I can tell you. It gave the prosecutors in my office real-time updates about the findings of that internal investigation, often revealing to the office what witnesses had said even before GM management was filled in itself. That doesn't always happen. GM got rid of a slew of employees, I believe 15, who were involved in the recall process that failed so miserably in this case. That almost never happens. And the company established a full and independent victim compensation program that has to date agreed to pay more than $566 million, again, far in excess of what a court might have ordered, and at far less cost to the victims, and that has never happened. So that cooperation is the reason why we are here after only 18 months in a complicated case, rather than 4 years or more. To be clear, good behavior after the fact does not absolve GM or any company of responsibility. But companies should be encouraged to act as GM did here to help the truth come out faster, to help victims' families get compensated earlier, to weed out the bad actors faster, to do everything they can to make sure tragedies like those that unfolded in this case never happen again. Now, with respect to this case, the investigation continues. I am not necessarily saying that charges will be brought or won't be brought against any particular individual. We have made determinations as to some, but not as to all. What I can say is that there are challenges, legal and factual, in cases like this. We have to examine the role of any particular individual within the company, the person's duties and specific responsibilities, the timing of his or her action or inaction. There are some people, as you might imagine, who had knowledge but did not make any disclosure, either to a regulator or to the public. And there are other people, as you might imagine, who made disclosures but didn't have any knowledge or didn't have complete knowledge. In those circumstances, any lawyer will tell you criminal intent can be hard to prove. So it is not always possible to bring a particular kind of case, but I can say that if there is a case to bring, we will bring it, and I think I can fairly say that no office anywhere in the country has prosecuted more individuals for white-collar offenses than this one. As for today's resolution, our unprecedented criminal cases in this area, in the auto industry, have had a significant impact. I think that's undeniable, as noted by some of the newspapers represented here today. Ask anyone at the Department of Transportation or in the transportation industry, and they will tell you that these cases have been something of a watershed. Because of these cases, there have been more recalls, there has been more attention to safety, more attention to transparency with regulators, and more focus on how to keep the driving public safe. This resolution and this case furthers that effort. Now, we didn't get here all by ourselves. I want to thank our many partners in this case for their hard work over the last 18 months. I want to thank the FBI, represented here today by Diego Rodriguez, the Assistant Director in charge of the New York Field Office, the Department of Transportation's Office of the Inspector General, represented by its Principal Assistant Inspector General for Investigations, Michelle McVicker, Special Inspector General for the TARP, represented by Inspector General Christy Romero, and NHTSA, represented by its Deputy Administrator, Blair Anderson. Finally, I want to thank the prosecutors in my office who have been responsible for this case, principally responsible for this case, Deputy Chief of the Criminal Division, Bonnie Jonas, and Assistant U.S. Attorneys Sarah Eddy McCallum and Edward Imperator. Now I'd like to call to the podium Diego Rodriguez of the FBI.
Thank you, Preet. Good afternoon. The FBI is proud to stand beside our partners to announce criminal charges against General Motors. No longer can this company's responsibility remain covered behind pure civil liability. As noted in the deferred prosecution agreement, GM admits to not only failing to disclose a safety defect to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, but also to misleading U.S. consumers about the same defect. Although we cannot put a mandatory value on the lives lost, we believe the previously noted agreement, which includes a $900 million financial penalty, is a fair and just consequence for corporate criminality. This penalty is meant to deter decisions that look to benefit the corporation at the expense of personal harm. We will no longer accept a business culture where expediency and the bottom line are put before the safety of people. General Motors can no longer hide behind the corporate veil. They are now accountable for their actions. Many thanks, as always, to our partners in this and so many investigations, U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Deputy Administrator Blair Anderson, Department of Transportation Office of Inspector General, Principal Inspector General Michelle McVicker, and SIGTARP Special Inspector General Christy Romero. I would also like to thank and congratulate our corporate fraud investigative team that worked together on this case from all the agencies herein. Thanks.
Now I'd like to call to the podium the Department of Transportation's Michelle McVicker.
Thank you, everybody. On behalf of the Inspector General, Cal Scoville, I want to thank you and all other members of the multi-agency team for all the time and effort dedicated to working this case. The $900 million agreement is a clear signal to all of whose duty is to protect our public. Your most solemn obligation is to public safety. While we are pleased with the result, we have not forgotten that families suffered as a result of the failure of these ignition switches. They are not mere statistics. To the families and friends of those who have died, to those who were injured as a result of these incidents, the Inspector General and I offer our deepest sympathies for your loss and our highest admiration for your strength as you demonstrate that every day. Safety is a vital component of our mission and the Office of Inspector General's highest priority. We are committed to pursuing those who violate the Department of Transportation's laws and regulations, but safety begins with the auto manufacturers. When they become aware of safety issues, they must make timely disclosures and take swift and appropriate corrective action. These companies must live up to their responsibilities and obligations to the public who rely on their products for a safe transport. It is my sincere hope that the steps we've taken and the agreement we've reached with General Motors will serve as a clarion call to all auto manufacturers of the need of unwavering vigilance when it comes to public safety. Again, I thank all of you and all of the families and all of the team members for their assistance on this case.
Thank you. Then let me call to the podium SIGTARP Inspector General Christy Romero.
I'm Christy Goldsmith Romero, the Special Inspector General at SIGTARP, which is a law enforcement agency that investigates crime related to the bailout. The SIGTARP special agents took a leading role in this extensive investigation, working in very close coordination with U.S. Attorney Bahara's office and our other partners. More than 70 witnesses were interviewed. More than 1 million pages of documents and emails were analyzed. And to the family and friends of loved ones who lost their life, I'm here to tell you that we always kept your loved ones in mind while conducting the investigation. We know that nothing can take away your loss. We're sorry for your loss. So all we could do at SIGTARP is do what we do best, which is to be relentless in pursuing the truth so that you could know the truth, and be relentless in enforcing the law. The criminal conduct by GM that was found by SIGTARP and our partners here today defies comprehension, and perhaps the worst part of this tragedy is it was entirely avoidable. GM could have substantially reduced the risk related to this this deadly defect, by improving the design of a key that would cost less than $1, and they decided not to do so because of cost. Now, Americans stepped up and they bailed out General Motors. And now General Motors needs to step up and make substantial corporate changes so nothing like this ever happens again. I want to commend the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch. I want to commend the U.S. Attorney, Preet Bharara, for standing united with SIGTARP to ensure that there is accountability for the crimes committed by GM while they are in TARP. I really want to recognize the terrific prosecutors, Bonnie Jonas, Sarah McCallum, and Edward Imperator, as well as the Department of Transportation Inspector General and the Federal Bureau of Investigations for relentlessly pursuing the truth and enforcing the law with us. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, let me call to the podium NHTSA Deputy Administrator Blair Anderson.
Hello, my name is Blair Anderson. I am the Deputy Administrator of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Administrator Rosekind wishes he could be here today, but he is traveling with the Secretary Fox in Europe at a G7 ministers event for transportation. On May 16, 2014, the day NHTSA announced the resolution of its enforcement action against GM, the agency sent a criminal referral to the Department of Justice regarding GM's action. On behalf of the Secretary, the Administrator, and all the staff at NHTSA, I'd like to thank Mr. Bharara, his staff, and all their colleagues at the Department of Justice for their efforts to seek justice in this matter. At NHTSA, we are focused on safety rather than criminal matters, and today's announcement strengthens our ability.
Okay, want to go back to this live breaking news situation in Florida where a bus crashed in the pond, and they are getting now the bus out of the water. Once again, the bus driver and students are okay, but they finally are getting this bus out of the pond, and you can get a better look at the situation here that is happening live in Florida. To be exact, it is Hillsborough County, Florida, and luckily nobody was hurt or injured in this bus crash. Best case scenario for what we're looking at. Thank you all for watching this live breaking news that we're featuring on Fox News Now. Coming up at 1:30, we are going to step out and take a 5-minute breather, and then Samia is going to come up with on a new stream, so be looking out for that. She has a jam-packed show that she's going to feature some of the latest news and happenings that's been happening locally and nationally. Once again, we are looking out live to Hillsborough County, Florida, where the bus, as you can see, swerved off into that pond, flipped over, and now they got the wrecker truck out and they are taking it out, where there will be some extensive investigations to what happened. Luckily, students will all be able to go in their beds tonight with their family, safe and sound, after what could have been a terrible, terrible story. It just missed that tree, as you can see. It just missed it, went right under the tree and into the pond. What a situation in Florida today. Happened right afternoon our time, 3 o'clock on the East Coast for Florida time. And man, it could have been bad. But luckily, we got good news today on Fox News Now for you. I want to thank you all for watching. We've covered a lot. We've covered a lot this last 90 minutes, haven't we, guys? Looks like we're getting a little off topic on the in the comment section, guys. Let's try to keep it right on point to what we're looking at here, and this is live in Florida, Hillsborough County. Bus crashed. Luckily, everyone is okay. Rachie Joe's fault, Mike. Well, now we're back on topic, everybody. Gotta stay on topic. That's the one thing we gotta do. It looks like the tow truck, I don't know what it's doing right now, but it says it's leaving right now. They might just be leaving that bus right there for a little bit. It's all good, everybody. We're back on topic. We are engaged in this chat room as we look live to Hillsborough County, Florida. What a scene. And boy, when we first, about 40 minutes ago, first brought you this news, we didn't know what it was going to be. But luckily, we got news pretty quickly that everybody was okay. So that is the best case scenario that for what happened. That's a really wide angle here, giving us a kind of a perspective of this area in Hillsborough. A lot of green there. Must rain a lot in Florida, huh? Just kidding. We know it rains in Florida. Oh, Jarrett, he doesn't understand. We get off topic quite a bit. No, I know that, but I got to try sometimes just ring you guys back in, you know? I know your MO, guys. Live look right now as we got aerials in Florida, bus crash into the pond. They're going to be taking it out and going to be looking at that security footage on that bus. I can guarantee you that. We'll probably... All right, guys, we're coming up on 1:30, which means we're going to toss it over to Samia. She's going to take 5 minutes just to regroup and set up that new stream for you. She has a lot that's going to be covered, including a rally, another rally that happened just a little bit ago for those heroes on that train in Paris that stopped that terrorist. And then also a big interview that we're going to showcase is with Governor Ducey. He's actually going to meet the Pope coming up next week. Our own Governor Ducey, is going to meet the Pope, and we're going to give you that interview. Samia is going to be covering that for you. So it's going to be a big show. We always love when you guys are watching. We truly appreciate it. Give me a follow on Twitter if you haven't already done so at Mike Paish, Fox10. We would love for you to follow us. What a day it has been, hasn't it, guys? And we're just getting warmed up. We are just getting warmed up. And we're just going to dip out of that, and just a reminder that Samia is going to be coming up with her show at 1:35. We're going to just dip out of here. We're going to make a new stream for you, so we encourage you all to just join her on the other side in about 5 minutes. My name is Mike Paish. It's been a great Thursday. It's been a great Friday Eve. I enjoyed talking with you guys. It's been a lot of fun. We covered a lot of topics. Even brought you some breaking news today. Sometimes I don't get the breaking news, but today I did, and it was good. I will see you all tomorrow for that beautiful TGIF. Say it one more time for me, guys. TGIF is tomorrow. We're all gonna party, right? We're all gonna have some fun. Chat room's gonna be alive, just like it was today. Truly appreciate it. Fox News Now. Thank you all for coming, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.